Good evening. Good evening, everyone. If you join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll get started. Again, welcome. It's nice to see a full house tonight. We've got lots of recognitions. We're pleased to be recognizing numerous outstanding students and employees. Martin Luther King Jr. Poster Essay Contest winners, PNEA Scholarship recipients, Missouri Scholars Academy, Missouri Scholars 100, Early College Partnership graduates, Superintendent Character Award, and the Missouri School Public Relations Association Distinguished Service Award. I wonder who that goes to. First, though, I would like to welcome Superintendent Dr. Keith Marty to the podium to begin the introduction of new administrators.
Well, thank you, Mr. Todd, board members, Mrs. Stover. We are traditionally at this time of the year, we are very pleased and proud to bring forth new leaders that are going to be taking over key positions in Parkway. So I'm going to start and I'm going to pass it on with some colleagues. But Elisa, would you join me, please, up here at the podium? So I'm very proud to introduce to the Board of Education and to our public, Ms. Elisa Tomich, who is going to be our new Chief Communication Officer starting on July 1st, although I think that's not right. She's been already meeting with a number of us and getting to know her role here in Parkway. Let me talk a little bit about Elisa. She's a graduate of the University of Missouri-Columbia, a BS in journalism from the Fine Journalism School, and a BA in political science. She has served many years as a journalist, including several years as an education reporter for the Post-Dispatch. And I will say, I don't know if she remembers this, when I first became a superintendent here in Parkway, she was a reporter who I think had a few interviews with me as she was serving in that role. And then most recent, she's had communication experiences in the business arena with Wells Fargo and nonprofit Opportunity Trust. What does she bring to Parkway? She's got strong writing communication skills and background, strategic planning, marketing, crisis communications, building community partnerships, and working with teams, engagement in inclusionary and equity work. Personally, I think those that had the chance to work or interview and make the selection of Elisa found her to be a wonderful and clear communicator, has a collaborative style, is friendly, has a wonderful sense of humor, is a motivator, and she's committed to the craft of communication, and she loves education, so she's in the right place. We're very, very excited to have Elisa join us. She's certainly replacing someone who's been in that role for as long as I've been here and longer, but we believe her skills and her background are going to fit us perfectly. So it's my pleasure, and she's going to say just a few words to introduce Ms. Elisa Tomich. Lisa.
So thank you for that, Keith, and I want to say thank you to the board for the opportunity to be Parkway's next communications officer. I'm incredibly excited to get started, and as Dr. Marty mentioned, I've already been spending some time in the district getting to know people. I can't wait to start working alongside members of SAT and the communications and security team. When I was a reporter, I spent hundreds of hours in classrooms across the St. Louis area. And to be perfectly candid, there were times I left pretty discouraged at the lack of learning happening in classrooms. But that wasn't the case in Parkway. I always felt that when I was in Parkway, I saw outstanding teaching. I left schools feeling very energized and excited. And I met student after student who made me feel hopeful about our future. So thank you for the opportunity to join the district. I can't wait to dive in and start addressing challenges and opportunities. And we'll be getting to know each other better on Wednesdays. So thank you very much.
We now will have our Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Tiffany Holman-Bess, introduce some of our school leaders. Tiffany?
Good evening, President Todd, Vice President Hopper, Dr. Marty, Ms. Dover, members of the Board of Education. It's my pleasure to introduce you to some of our new school administrators for the 23-24 school year. First, Dr. Christina Plisky. Christina is joining the Parkway community as the new principal of McKelvey Primary. She brings with her a great deal of experience for primary grade education and has experienced many successful years as a teacher, instructional coach, and assistant principal both in Texas and Missouri, with her most recent position serving as assistant principal in the Francis House School District. Please welcome Dr. Plisky to say a few words.
Good evening to the board and everyone in attendance this evening. I just want to say I am absolutely honored to be a part of the Parkway community and the McKelvey community as well. I'm extremely excited to have the opportunity to focus on what is some of the most important years of a child's schooling, those primary years. And I'm really looking forward to being able to work as a team with everyone at McKelvey to really focus in and build a great experience for everyone there and continue to build great relationships with the students and their families and all of the staff. And I couldn't be more excited, and I am extremely thankful for this opportunity. Thank you all for giving me this opportunity. I do not take this responsibility lightly, but I'm really enthusiastic about it and excited to get to work.
Next, we're excited to introduce Dr. LaShonda Johnson to the Parkway family as the new principal at Bryn Hollow Elementary School. Dr. Johnson has served as a successful instructional leader in both middle and elementary schools in the Review School District. In addition to a rich tradition of improving student achievement, LaShonda brings with her a great deal of excitement for building community and strong relationships with the Bryn Hollow staff, students, and families. Please welcome Dr. Johnson to say a few words.
Greetings to the Parkway School Board, my esteemed colleagues and community. My name is Dr. LaShonda Johnson, and I am excited, delighted, and just eager to begin working in Parkway School District. As Dr. Bessie Holman stated, I do have a wealth of experience. I am ending my 15th year of education, and I've had experience at the elementary, middle, and high school level. So being at the elementary school and having those other opportunities allows me to know the end goal for our scholars. I too have had the opportunity to work with the Bryn Hollow staff, and I want to thank all of the emails, the phone calls, and everybody who has joined and welcomed me so far. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this community. I'm excited and I'm ready to get to work. So nice to meet you all.
Next up is Mr. Jason Brown, the new assistant principal at Central Middle School. Jason is joining the Parkway family from Hazelwood School District, where he has experienced a great deal of success in working with students, staff, and families. Mr. Brown is looking forward to being part of the caring Colts community. Jason?
Thank you, everyone, and a big thank you to the board just for the opportunity to be a part of the Parkway School District. From the moment I walked into Central Middle, from the moment I walked into the Parkway School District offices, it felt like the place I wanted to be. When I was in Central Middle and I was meeting with Dr. Lorenz and she was talking to me about the academies they're wanting to get off the ground over there, I was excited about education. I was excited to be a part of that. And I was really excited to begin and am excited to begin my career in Parkway. So thank you all. I'm excited to bring that kind of that energy and my background in education to Central Middle School, and I'm excited to work with all the staff there, all the students there. And I'm ready for the summer and ready for the next school year. So thank you again. Thank you all.
And last but certainly not least, I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Jessica Greenberg, who's returning home to us from the Webster Grove School District, where she has served as a math teacher and teacher leader at Hickson Middle School. Jessica?
Thank you, everyone, and thank you to the board for giving me this opportunity to serve as the newest assistant principal at Parkway Southwest Middle. My greatest joy is coming back to Parkway as a Parkway grad. I've had so many great memories, and I can't wait to give those same memories and share them with students at Parkway Southwest.
We're truly excited to have this group of leaders bring their talents and dedication to our young people in Parkway. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Patty Bedrow.
Good
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I want to take this time and opportunity to introduce you to our new Executive Director of Finance, Dawn Trokey. Dawn has over 17 years of experience in school finance. Currently, she serves as the Director of Finance for the Fox School District. Previous to that, she served as a financial analyst for Wentzville School District and then also spent some time in the Merrimack Valley School District. She is a graduate with her Bachelor's of Science from Culver Stockton. So everyone, please welcome Dawn.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for the board for this wonderful opportunity. I've already been able to come in and work with the finance department, and the Parkway Finance Department is tremendous, and I am so excited to be able to be a part of that. I'm thrilled and honored to be a part of the Parkway family, so thank you all very much.
Okay, next, I would like to, in the board, we're gonna hop up and, so we can greet some students. But I'd like to welcome Moira McCracken, PNEA President, to introduce the winners of the Martin Luther King Jr. Poster Essay Contest winners and the PNEA Scholarship recipients.
Good evening, Dr. Marty, Mr. Todd, Mrs. Hopper, the other distinguished members of the Board of Education. It is my honor this evening to spend a few minutes recognizing some of the outstanding students and staff that we have in Parkway. I'll begin by showcasing Parkway's local and state winners of the Missouri NEA 2023 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Essay and Poster Contest. Each year, MNEA holds a competition for public school students, engaging them in writing and art to contemplate the prompt, fulfilling Dr. King's dream, reading to lead and transform. Parkway is only allowed to submit the top 3 choices from each category, so we have some winners at the Parkway level and some at the state level. Winners at the state level are chosen in 5 grade level categories, and each receives a gift card, and their teachers win a gift card as well. This year we had a wonderful turnout from Parkway, and we were pleased to have several state winners whose artwork I'm going to show on the screen if I can figure out. Hey, look at that. So we have 2 of our state winners, first place and second place in the K1 category. And we have first place in the 2-3 category and first place in the 6-8 category here. Students, if your name is called, please come up to be recognized by the Board of Education, and you'll kind of go along and give everybody a handshake. So in the kindergarten and first grade category, first place in Parkway and first place in the state went to Meenakshi Raj from Shenandoah Valley. Second place in Parkway and second place in state went to Daksha Talian from Shenandoah Valley. And third place in Parkway went to Olive Ramsey from Carmen Trails. In the grades 2-3 category, first place in Parkway and first place in the state went to Siddharthan Sikal Kumar from Shenandoah Valley. And second place went to Shaktisri Sikal Kumar from Shenandoah Valley. In the grades 4 through 5 category, first place in Parkway went to Lakshita Gupta from Henry. Second place in Parkway went to Mira Puri from Henry. And third place in Parkway went to Tanvi Ray from Henry. In the grades 6 through 8 category, first place in Parkway and first place in the state went to Shri Kumar from West Middle School. Congratulations congratulations to all the students for their hard work. And I would also like to thank all the wonderful Parkway teachers who encouraged their students to participate in the competition, as well as their parents for their support throughout the competition. So thank you. Next, I'm thrilled to recognize the winners of the Missouri NEA and Parkway NEA scholarships. Each year, Missouri NEA and Parkway NEA award several students and staff who set their sights on continuing education or projects for their students. This year, we had 56 applications for the 6 PNEA scholarships that we give out. The committee was so impressed with the applications that we decided to give out additional scholarships and grants to best help the students in Parkway and our members. Overall, Parkway NEA has given out $16,625 in scholarships and grants this year. Following are the recipients, starting with students. The Missouri NEA Gilbert Balderrama Minority Scholarship is given out yearly to one high school senior of color graduating from a Missouri public school who has been accepted to pursue a degree at a college or university. This year's state recipient is Layla St. Christopher from Parkway North High School. The PNEA High School Senior Scholarship is awarded to seniors who are planning on pursuing a career in education. PNEA is happy to support these students in their education. We have Roxana Abdul-Ghaffar from North High School. Angelia Carl from South High School. Michael Galanti from West High School. Sorry, I should have said this. Go up and shake hands. If the others are here, sorry. I apologize. We have Lily Lagos from North High School. And Gannon Rainiac from South High School. The Gene Olson Memorial Scholarship is given to the child of a Parkway NEA member who is pursuing a career in education. This year's recipient also happens to be a student in Parkway, Parker Cole from North High School. Congratulations to all these students, and don't forget, we love good teachers in Parkway, so check us out when you're done with your certification. Next, we'll honor the Parkway NEA members who have applied for scholarship or grant money to continue their education or support students in their classroom. The Jawanda Bozeman Social Justice and Education Scholarship is given annually to two members who work towards achieving the Parkway mission through the implementation of social justice work in their everyday practice or classroom. This year's recipients are Brian Guilfoyle from Central High School and Melissa Young from South Middle School. The Linda Favero Memorial Scholarship or grant is given to two members who are pursuing professional development or as a grant to be used in the classroom. This year's recipients are Emily Duval from Belle Reve and Amy Sidnor from Ross. The Vito Maniaci Professional Education Scholarship is given to two members to help offset the cost of graduate or professional development opportunities. This year's recipients are Angela Hetz from Southwest Middle School, and Dana Moore from North High School. The Professional Education and Growth Scholarship or grant is given to four members to further their professional learning or for class or school projects. This year's recipients are Nicole Allen from Shenandoah Valley, Jeff Church from North High School, Carlin Forst from North High School, and Catherine Spradling from Fern Ridge. The final category of scholarships and grants is the PNEA at-large scholarships. These are additional scholarships that we decided to award this year based on the high number of excellent applications we received. This money may be used for graduate classes, professional development opportunities, or in the classroom to support students. This year's recipients are Christine McNichols from Henry. Oh, good, thank you. Excellent, thank you. Kristen Nager from West High School. Joel Rademeyer from South Middle School. Zora Shields from Wren Hollow. Jennifer Signorino from Barrett's. And Carrie Wolf, also from Barrett's. Congratulations to all the winners of Missouri NEA and Parkway NEA scholarships and grants this year.
Next, please welcome Dr. Kevin Beckner, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching, Learning, and Accountability, who will share information about the Missouri Scholars Academy.
Well, thank you very much. The Missouri Scholars Academy is a 3-week academic program for 330 of Missouri's gifted students who are ready to begin their junior year in high school. The Academy is a residential program held on the campus of the University of Missouri. Students are selected by GPAs, standardized test scores, IQs, recommendations, and formal essays. This year, 7 Parkway students have been selected to participate in the Missouri Scholars Academy this summer. The Parkway students are from Central High, Alan Conway. Leo Flynn. Jamul Lee. From South High, Jaden Cho. Ramya Penamacha. And from West High, Sasha Tripathi. And Mino Wang. Absolutely. Yes. Having participated in several of the award ceremonies, I know some of these students are very busy and have participated in their own school-based award ceremonies as well. Thank you so much. The Missouri Scholars 100 list is a statewide program that honors 100 of Missouri's top academic students in the graduating class of 2023. Schools across Missouri are invited to nominate candidates for this statewide recognition. The selection is based primarily on a formula using the student's grade point average and ACT or SAT score. Each student nominated had to meet the criteria of an academic decathlon, which included 10 events designed to assure the academic strength of the student. To meet the decathlon requirements, a student must have a minimum GPA of 3.75, a minimum ACT score of 29, or a minimum SAT score of 1900, be ranked in the upper 10% of the class, and have taken upper-level courses in mathematics, science, English, and world languages. The student must also have excellent attendance, be an exemplary school citizen, and be involved in the school activity program. The Missouri Scholars 100 program is sponsored by the Missouri Association of Secondary School Principals, and this year we have 6 Parkway students who have been selected as part of the Missouri Scholars 100 program. Those students are from Central High, Gayatri Binoj, Nisha Murli. From North High, Meena Kalinatha Batla. And Kalyan Krish. From South High, Mani Agarwal. And Anushka Rawat.
Next, please welcome Dr. Jennifer Stanfill, Director of Choice Programs and Parkway Virtual Campus, to introduce us to Parkway's early college partnership students.
Good evening, President Todd, Vice President Hopper, members of the board, Dr. Marty and Ms. Stover. It is with great privilege to be here tonight to recognize our graduates of the Early College Partnership Program. The Early College Partnership, or ECP program, is an immersive early entrance college program located on the campuses of St. Louis Community College. During the past 2 years, these students have accessed college courses taught by professors at St. Louis Community College at both Merrimack and Wildwood campuses. The majority of these students will be leaving high school having earned an Associates of Arts degree as well as their high school diploma. These students have had the opportunity to accelerate their learning in a field of interest, gain a sense of belonging in higher education, and earn early college credit, making higher education attainment more affordable. We are so incredibly proud of their success, and I would like to introduce Ms. Tiffany McBride, our Choice Programs Counselor, to join me. Ms. McBride works as a liaison between our Parkway students, Parkway schools, and our St. Louis Community College partners. She works closely with our students throughout their ECP journey, and she will be introducing to you tonight the Early College Partnership Program graduates of 2023.
If any ECP students are here, please come up as I call your name. I know they're very busy, so some cannot make it today. From Central High, Justin Dominguez. CJ Jones. Layla Jones. Sierra Jones. And Hannah Prakash. From North High, Noam Burka, Love Ford, Miles Larson, and Monty Lachey. From South High, Nathan Karan, Olivia Harter, Dominic Klein, Elise Kruger, Paige Olson, and Maya Scott. From West High, Taylor Johnson, Haley Patel, and Lauren Stewart. Congratulations to these associate's degree students and high school graduates of Early College Program.
Next, please welcome Dr. Keith Marty back to the podium, along with Angie Pappas-Moyko, principal at South High.
Well, several years ago, we decided, with our emphasis on character education here in Parkway, to recognize those situations where there may be really some students that really deserve some really attention for their work in character. And so we called it the Superintendent Character Award, just to give it a name. What we're trying to do here is certainly emphasize how important the work of our students, or our staff and our students, are in the work of character around things like trustworthiness, honesty, integrity, respect, civility, responsibility, and of course citizenship. And then we also want to recognize students who have really stepped up in critical situations, and to really emphasize that sometimes character is really tested when it has to be put to a test. And so I'm proud to now turn the comments, after you get the background of the Superintendent's Character Award, to Angie Pappas-Moyko, the principal at South High, who, by the way, we have to emphasize, South High, when we've had this award before, has had students also receive it for some wonderful, courageous and bravery, and we have some other students who have certainly deserved this. So Angie's going to detail this, and we're very, very proud to make sure that we are, again, emphasizing good character when it's really tested. Angie?
Good evening, President Todd, Vice President Hopper, Board of Education, Dr. Marty, and Ms. Stover. I'm here today to honor two Patriot heroes. Noah Adu Gabo and Jackson Lang saved 3 teammates, essentially their friends, after a car accident on the way to a track meet at North High. The collision caused one of the cars with the 3 South High students to flip on its side. The impact made it difficult for the 3 young men to free themselves from the automobile. Without hesitation, Noah and Jackson ran from the car they were in to help their classmates. They began to free the trapped students. When the first responders arrived, Noah and Jackson had already pulled them out of the wreckage and onto the ground to safety. The paramedics transported one student to the hospital where he received further medical care. Luckily, there were no serious injuries. Noah and Jackson are shining examples of what it means to be model citizens, and they also exemplify the Parkway mission by showing us what it means to be caring. They acted swiftly and bravely in a crisis. I asked the young men how they maintained composure in this situation, and they credited their health teacher, Mr. Dave McFarland, for teaching them first aid in health class. These young men helped their classmates in a time of need, and they deserve our deepest gratitude. Please join me in honoring Noah and Jackson for their heroic act. You make us Peace South proud. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Here's your superintendent medal. Do you want to give them these? And Noah, congratulations. All right, Dr. Marty will give you that. All right, got it, Noah. Yeah. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
For our last recognition of the evening, please welcome David Luther, Executive Director of the Missouri School Public Relations.
Wow, it's a big group. Always like this at Parkway? First of all, thank you to the Parkway Board of Education and Superintendent Marty for providing our association a few minutes to honor one of our most respected and beloved members, Mr. Paul Tandy. The Missouri School Public Relations Association is comprised of 270 school communications professionals, superintendents, and others who work to share the vital nature of education with those who make up their school community. The association's primary goal, or goals, are to deliver high-quality professional development to members and to provide an ongoing support network for those working on behalf of public education. Several of Paul's MOSFER colleagues have come to honor him, and I would ask them to stand, but I think they're probably already standing in the back, but you can wave. They'll be okay. Yeah. Paul has been recognized by our association for past awards, including the Spirit Award, which is given to a member who continually works to mentor and help others grow as professionals, and as our Professional of the Year, the most prestigious award our association gives. This year, Paul was named our Distinguished Service Award recipient, and in a moment, MOSPER President Erica Chandler will present Paul with the award. Paul has played many leadership roles in MOSPER over the course of his career. Only one person has served as many years, or will serve as many years, on the MOSPER board as Paul, and that's Erica. Paul served as Eastern Director, MOSPER Treasurer for 2 years, President-elect, President for another 2 years, and past President. That's 7 years on the board. That'll get you an award. Paul has been a mentor, both formally and informally, for many members of our association, especially in the Eastern region. He gives of his time and expertise freely and frequently, and he's our go-to for many members, including me. After his time on the board, we have continued to call on Paul for assistance on a number of matters, and he has always been there to help. Most recently, we asked him to do an audit of our association's finances, and he graciously agreed. Paul and his team, and I want to emphasize his team because it's a great group, have presented at state and national level. They've been honored by National School Public Relations Association for their outstanding work in public relations. And honestly, Paul has just been the consummate professional, and he is truly beloved by those in the association. Now it's my pleasure to ask MOSPA President Erica Chandler, Director of Communications for the Afton Public Schools, to present Paul his award.
Good evening, and again, thank you so much for giving MOSPRA a few minutes to recognize one of our finest members. Paul, will you join us? The Distinguished Service Award is presented to a MOSPRA member who has made a significant contribution to school public relations. Those who received this award have shown a personal commitment to quality communications that heighten perceptions of public relations and a record of support of the work of MOSPRA. Paul Tandy certainly meets and exceeds those qualifications. As David noted earlier, Paul has given so much of his time and expertise both to serve as a leader of our organization and to help others find success serving their districts as professional communicators. It is my pleasure to thank Paul for his service and to congratulate him on an outstanding career. Please join me in recognizing the 2023 MOSPRA Distinguished Service Award recipient, Paul Tandy.
Congratulations again to all our amazing students and employees. We will now take a quick break and we'll resume the meeting shortly. welcome back. I have a couple of brief comments here. Let's see, we're to agenda item 7.0, which is additions, corrections, and/or modifications to the agenda. Those include 7.01, addition of agenda item 11.43, approval of gifts from the public, donation to Barrett's Elementary. 7.02, addendum to agenda item 11.15, approval of personnel items. 7.03, update to agenda item 11.26, extra duty budget. 7.04, revised documents added to agenda item 11.35, approval of assignment and assumption of subcontractor contracts. Next up, we have citizen comments. It's during this time that we provide an opportunity for citizen comments in an effort to maintain an open and respectful dialogue with our community. The public comment session is not the appropriate forum for addressing individually identifiable student and/or personnel matters. Therefore, due to privacy laws protecting students and employees, comments about these matters should not include personally identifiable information about particular students or employees. Members of the public, staff, and students are encouraged to utilize established policies and procedures for offering suggestions or addressing concerns and complaints prior to bringing the issue before the board. Please be mindful that the meetings of the board, including your statements at the podium, are broadcast, and that you are responsible for any public comments you make. In lieu of a public comment, you may choose to submit your comments to the board in writing. Also, due to time constraints and the need to complete the primary responsibilities of our meeting agenda, we cannot respond during the meeting, so you will receive a response from us in writing. We are always available to have an open dialogue outside of our meetings and can be reached by email or phone using the contact information on the Parkway website. Tonight, I believe we have 16 or 17 speakers, and we will allow each speaker 2 minutes to come to the podium, take just a second and introduce yourself and your affiliation to Parkway or with Parkway. And I will do my best not to butcher any names as I call them, but I will call several people at a time, and so you know who you're going to follow, and we'll go right down the list. So first up is Brian DeBosch. He'll be. And in order to keep this moving right along, I would ask that we hold our applause until all of the speakers are finished tonight, and then we're welcome to applaud for them all. Go right ahead.
Good evening. My name is Brian DeBosch, and I'm a Parkway West parent. Today, I represent my 2 girls and over 1,200 other swimmers and parents who petitioned against the merger of the Parkway and Rockwood swim clubs. Collectively, we ask that the school board stand with its constituents against this merger. First, Parkway and Rockwood athletes universally oppose this merger. Each club obtained over 600 athletes and parent signatures each to this effect. Second, the vast majority of those polled stated that there is no logistical, training, or competitive benefit for these athletes and the families, that the added tuition costs bring with them no added value, and that they will overwhelmingly leave the merged club once this occurs for any of the many established clubs in the area. The revenue lost due to this attrition is estimated to be around $500,000 to $800,000. On these grounds, this is an unsound decision for the students, families, and the district. Parkway Swim Club has been a proud, profitable, and storied club for over 50 years. Tonight, you'll hear from many of our athletes and community members who hope for at least 50 more. With one voice, we stand and ask the school board to oppose this merger and continue the legacy of Parkway Swim Club. Thank you.
Again, I'll remind everyone that we're going to refrain from applause in between speakers. Okay, thank you. Next up, we will have Leah DeBosch, followed by David Green and Ashley Eisworth.
Hello, I'm Leah DeBosch, and I'm 13 years old. I'm in National Prep Group on Parkway Swim Club, and I go to Parkway West Middle. I've been on Parkway Swim Club since I was 6 years old, and I was on swim school before that. My family is very invested in the club. My dad is on the swim club board and officiates at most of my meets. My mom volunteers at many of the meets and even swam on the club when she was younger with her 2 siblings. My sister Emma also swims on the team and is in Blue Group. My grandma recently retired from starting and running the Parkway Swim School for 16 years. I believe that Parkway merging with Rockwood would create so many problems in and out of the pool. All of the friendships I have made are truly irreplaceable. I have made many bonds with not only the swimmers but the coaches. They have shaped me into the person I am and made me a better swimmer. I've learned life lessons that I will use forever, and I feel that if we try to combine 2 totally different clubs, the relationships with the people and coaches would be lost. I call the pool home for usually over 2 hours every single day, and I consider my teammates like my family. The merge has already caused so many issues and problems inside of our club, and adding more people would just make it even worse. I believe that if Chris, our old head coach, is brave enough to show that he feels that some ways, then I am too. I don't want this merge to happen and ruin the club and everything that everyone on this team has ever worked hard for. So I'm begging you to please consider the people that have known this club for as long as they can remember. We're just trying to tell you how we feel, and that it seems that you guys are trying to take the club away from us. Thank you.
My name is Dr. David Green, and my family resides in the district. I'm here to voice my opposition to the merger of Parkway and Rockwood swim clubs. My family has been part of the Parkway Swim Club for 6 years, and I'm a swim official. Parkway Swim Club has a 50-year history that is being thrown away, and no one has been able to explain to me how this merger helps the coaches, the swimmers, or the families of either club. My family will end up paying more, driving further, and my girls will be swimming in a more crowded pool. I am concerned that this is a money grab that will allow the community ed and/or the school district to have unlimited access to the swim team's money. It has already cost us an exceptional coach, and several swimmers have already left our team. A survey of the Parkway families indicate that many others are also prepared to leave, my family included. Thank you.
Eisworth, followed by Riley Moran and Gabby Green.
Hello, I'm Ashley Eisworth, and I'm a Parkway parent. I would like to express my strong opposition to the proposed merger of the swim teams. And Parkway's irreplaceable the loss of Parkway's irreplaceable head coach. The unique bond between the coach and his athletes is built on trust, respect, and shared goals. It's a relationship that cannot be replicated easily or quickly. His guidance and mentorship leave an indelible mark on the lives of his athletes. Furthermore, merging swim teams may lead to a dilution of team identity and a loss of camaraderie, which would negatively impact our athletes' motivation and sense of belonging, which are crucial elements in success in any sport. I urge you to consider the survey data that have been gathered, which clearly indicates widespread opposition. The key findings of the survey represent 185 families encompassing 282 swimmers, approximately 63% of the total enrollment. 59 respondents stated they will not enroll in the merged club. 32% remain undecided or neutral. 93 of the respondents see no advantage of this merged club over other local competitors. 91% of respondents believe that the increased fees will not generate a tangible benefit. The proposed merger is highly likely to result in a substantial attrition rate of 59%, which decreases revenue an estimated between $532,000 and $822,000. The data speaks for itself. I implore you to prioritize the best interests of the athletes and their families. And lastly, let us not undermine the head coach's significance by considering him merely as an employee. He is the backbone of this team, the driving force behind success, and an invaluable asset to the lives he touches. He is irreplaceable, and the impact extends far beyond the realm of sports. Thank you.
By Gabby Green and Amy Hubbard. none of those people here? That was my hope to refrain from the applause so you could hear. Next up is Riley Moran, followed by Gabby Green, and then we'll be followed by Amy Hubbard. Yes, sir, you do have a right, and we outline on the district website that we allot 30 minutes for this period of time, and so that's why we've allotted 2 minutes per speaker to accommodate that.
Hello, my name is Riley Moran, and I'm a 12-year-old swimmer at Parkway. I've been swimming since I was 6 years old. My brother has been swimming for 8 years, and my sister swam on Parkway for 4 to 5 years. We are part of the Parkway District, and my dad was also part of the Parkway District when he was swimming. He now officiates many meets as well as my mom. When they aren't officiating, they are my #1 supporters in the stands. Everyone knows how it feels to be sitting in class, watching the clock, waiting for practice to start. To see your friends. My friends are pretty much my second family. I have made many strong and even irreplaceable friendships through Parkway. I make these through team bonding activities, meets, and practices. I feel as if the merge will negatively affect or even ruin some of those friendships and connections, and the sense of the community and family that we have built within our Parkway Swim Club. Our coaches and swimmers have put in so much work into this club, and it'd be devastating to see it all go to waste. Parkway has been around for 50+ years, and we hope to continue our hard work towards our club and setting the standard. I strongly disagree with this merge and do not think that it should happen. None of the adults making this decision have explained to me how this will help us, because we are the ones being impacted negatively. The swimmers are the heart and soul of this club, and we are the ones losing the most with this merger and being considered the least. Thank you.
Next up is Gabby Green.
Hello, my name is Gabby Green and I am an AGS. I just recently have turned 12 and I've been swimming on Parkway since I was 6 years old. I really enjoy the time that I swim at the pool, or the time that I spend at the pool. All my teammates and even my coaches are my second family. I enjoy every hour I spend with them. My family is also involved with the club. I have a sister that's 8 years old and is in white group. My dad's an official and officials at many of the meets, and my mom even helps too. I spend lots of time at the pool, and so does my family. The relationships I have made through Parkway are irreplaceable. I feel that Parkway and the Rockwood merge will affect many of those relationships. I often find myself sitting in school waiting for practice and or meets. I look forward to these things because of the relationships I have with everyone. Everyone on Parkway is close, but right now it's the closest we've ever been. Most people do not agree with the Parkway-Rockwood merge. This team has gone through a lot together. I do not want 50+ years of Parkway, 50+ years of Parkway hard work to go down the drain for something most of us don't want to happen. Parkway has already lost one of the best coaches to this merge. Chris, our former head coach Chris, has put his heart into stopping this merge. Even though I believed he helped, this pushed him to his breaking point. There are so many reasons why I think the Parkway-Rockwood merge should not happen.
Next up is Amy Hubbard.
Good evening. My name is Amy Hubbard, and I am a social studies teacher at South High. I graduated from Parkway West many years ago and have taught in the district in 4 different decades. Over the last several weeks, we high school teachers have become more aware of the plan time issues at the elementary and middle school levels. I have personally reached out more than I ever have before to talk to some of those teachers. The word they keep coming back to me with is, it is becoming increasingly unsustainable. At the end of the last board meeting, almost every board member complimented the day of service, including Special Olympics at Parkway North. As one of the South sponsors of our Special Olympics tournament, I know of all the hours and hours of behind-the-scenes planning for such an event. In the weeks leading up to the event, my co-sponsor and I run around the building doing things that can only be done during our plan period. We then do work far outside any contractual time and are paid less than minimum wage to do it. She and I have recently discussed if we should resign from this position, not as a got you, but as a we don't have the time to do it. It doesn't make sense to me. I have heard the same thing from our NHS sponsor, especially around induction times, special educators concerned about IEP meetings, science teachers cutting labs, math and foreign language teachers saying we're going to do multiple choice instead of written responses, and AP teachers saying we have to assign fewer essays to grade. When a child needs glasses to see the board, you don't take away the glasses of other children and say, see, we're all equal. No, we just can't, anyone can see. That doesn't make any sense. You don't decrease planning time for the high school to solve, I'm gonna go, it's my Oscar moment, to solve problems of elementary schools not having enough. You have to give them more. For years, I have heard how Parkway is such a great education for the price.
Thank you, Ms.
That,
Hubbard.
I'm going to keep going.
We need to move
I
on
know.
to the next speaker, please.
That our community, I got 30 more seconds.
Well, you actually
Our
don't have 30
community
more
gets
seconds.
much bang for
Ms.
the
Hubbard,
buck, but increasingly,
yield the time to the
Parkway
next
has
speaker.
consolidated jobs, eliminated positions,
Ms. Hubbard.
asked people to do more work in less
Please give
time.
respect to
It
the
is
next speaker.
embarrassing how slow we pay the secretaries, and there are cracks in our armor. Our real slogan is going to become, you get what you pay for. Parkway has a strong
Ms. Hubbard.
reputation, but I fear that becoming more of a mirage. I encourage the board and
Ms. Hubbard,
administration to
it's time for the next speaker, Ms. Hubbard. The next speaker is Peyton Robick, followed by Mark Langdon and Leah Hensel. It's now Peyton Robick's turn to speak.
Hi, I'm Peyton Robick. I'm 13 years old and in National Prep. My family's part of this club. I have an older brother, Colby, who's 15 and in National Prep with me, and a younger brother, Parker, who is 10 and in Blue Group. We have all been a part of this team since we were 6. I speak for them today in my speech to you. My parents also help out as much as they can. Both parents' time at meets drive us everywhere we need to go for practice and CrossFit. The friendships I have made over the 7 years I've been swimming are priceless. I have bonded not only with the swimmers, but with my coaches as well. Their encouragement pushed me to be a better swimmer in person. I have learned so many things that I will keep forever. With the support of my teammates and coaches, this is where I am today. Personally, I feel the Rockwood and Parkway merge will affect those deeply that have been, the relationships deeply that have been formed. Meets will be bigger, practices will have more kids per location, and that doesn't seem effective as a swimmer. With a combined team, I feel that the connections I have now will be lost, and I feel like I'll get lost in the mix. Thank you.
Next up is Mark Langdon.
Thank you. My name is Mark Langdon. I've got a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old on Parkway Swim Club. And you're going to hear a lot of reasons why the merger is a bad idea tonight, but I want to give you a couple reasons why it's worth fighting for these kids. My 9-year-old this spring swam her first ever 100-meter butterfly. It's the hardest event in swimming. It's a long way for a 9-year-old. 50-meter pool, you don't get to turn every 25 yards like in short course. You're in the middle of deep water when you're out there by yourself. It might be normal to expect the other 9-year-olds to cheer for her, but what I noticed as a parent in the stands when you can't help your kid is that the best 12-year-olds, the best 13-year-olds, were all standing behind the blocks cheering on that 9-year-old. These kids care about this club, and they care about each other, and that's worth fighting for. So please reconsider this. I don't think anybody's ever come up with a positive for these kids in this room as to what I would call acquisition, not merger, is doing to the club. We've already lost a coach. It's probably, hopefully, not too late to save that. But this is a club that's worth fighting for. These kids are putting in tons of time. We started this meeting tonight by listening to new administrators talk about what they were going to do right by kids. We had awards for kids that are doing well in the classroom. These kids are winning regional, national competitions with the Parkway name on their caps, on their suits. They're doing right by this district, and this is worth fighting for. And thank you for your time.
Next up is Leah Hensel, followed by Steve Erstein and Amy Seifert. Leah Hensel. Layla? Okay. Next then is Steve Erstein. He'll be followed by Amy Seifert and Pascal Kunze.
I'm Steve Erstein, a social studies teacher at South High. I remember 12 years ago when we unveiled the new Sun and Book logo with the slogan, "Higher Expectations, Brighter Futures." I remember joking debate on whether the sun was rising or setting. I'm afraid that the last decade or so may be pointing in which direction. I have witnessed gradual erosions in the district. Our pay scale had already been falling behind, even before the generational inflation of the past 3 years. In 2006, my step was over $25,000 more in inflation-adjusted dollars. But this is not just about teacher pay. We've seen the erosion of the supports which buoy our students in schools. Custodians, ground staff, building managers, supervisory staff, teaching assistants and aides, bus drivers and secretaries have all been pared back, with the remaining staff shouldering more burdens, and invariably dropping some as the demands become too many or too much. Now, finally, with the unprecedented and opaquely communicated demands on high school teachers' planning time, I have become fully aware of the lack of planning time given to elementary and middle school teachers. This is a professional erosion. Real equity would have them receiving more rather than high school receiving less. Taking this time from the day results in the erosion of skills, reflection, and quality lessons and feedback. More does not get done with less. Less does. High-quality education comes from high-quality teachers who have the time to practice their profession. Students will suffer, and do, from teachers who are forced to find detrimental efficiencies in the face of time shortages. I fear the lowest hanging fruit for finding this time are the many ways that students and schools rely on teachers volunteering their time. In sum, all of these erosions are policies of slow retreat, an acceptance of decline, a setting sun. Let's not tread this path into the darkness. Let's work together as Parkway to provide the promise of a brighter future for our students. And I thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Amy Seifert.
Good evening. Before I begin, I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Arne Seifert. I'm part of the PCH community. And on behalf of every German YFU student at Parkway Central, I would like to express my gratitude to Dr. McCarthy, our principal, for having us at PCH and letting us experience this extraordinary school year that will not only stick with us in our minds for the rest of our lives, but in our hearts. And I think just imagining not being able to have this great experience making me want to cry, actually, not knowing how many awesome people I could have met here in Chesterfield. Speaking of awesome people, there are some people that I want to highlight in the speech, since mentioning every single one of them would take far too long. One of them is my Spanish teacher, Ben Flanker. He's a wonderful person with the biggest heart ever, and every time I just see him, it's like his smile is contagious. Definitely one of the people I will miss the most. Another person I want to recognize here is Stephen Rutherford. Also, I call him my dad. And yeah, he's a person who's incredibly and unbelievable. For the past 10 months, he's very hardworking and determined, and will not back off of something that seems too hard. Thank you, Dad. And the last persons I want to mention is my host family that was so great to me the last 10 months, well, actually 8 months, but okay. And yeah, each person in this wonderful and unique family has won my heart from day one and has strengthened this feeling from then on. And love you all, and thank you so much for being the best host family I could have wished for. Thank you so much for your time.
Next up is Pascal Kunze. He'll be followed by Monica Dickens and Joshua Tepkin.
Good evening. My name is Pascal Kunze, and I'm an exchange student at Parkway Central High School. I wanted to take a moment to express my gratitude for Parkway Central's principal, Dr. McCarthy, during my YFU exchange year. It was truly an amazing experience that I will always remember, and I had so much fun here, and I learned so many new things from my classes. I had the opportunity to take some classes that I wouldn't have had the chance to take back at home, and I really appreciated that. The teachers here were all so kind to me, and they made me feel welcome from day one. In particular, I wanted to thank Mrs. Hewitt and Madam Turnage for being especially supportive and helpful during my time here. They went above and beyond to help me adjust to life here, and I'm so grateful for that. My YFU year was an incredible opportunity for me to learn about a new culture and to meet so many amazing people, especially my host family, which I now consider my second family. I made friends with a lot of people here and also other YFU students from all over the world, and I learned a lot of new things from them. I also had the chance to explore the local area and to see many so amazing sights. I will never forget the memories that I made during my time here. So I just wanted to take a moment to thank you again for your support and for making this possible. Your willingness to allow me to attend Parkway Central during my YFU year has truly changed my life in ways that I never could have imagined. I will always be grateful for this experience and for the people that I met along the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Monica Dickens.
Good evening. My name is Monica Dickens. I am a Parkway South Family Consumer Sciences high school teacher for 14 years, resident of this great district for 25 years, and all of my children went through all the schools, and I've been very happy. Tonight I'd like to talk about my concern about reducing plan time at the high school level. If I would have been asked to give 10% of my time to help students, I would have done that. If I would have been asked, I would have done it, no problem. I'm concerned moving forward with the 90 minutes, which is 20% going up to 135 minutes, which is 30% of my weekly plan time. So I decided to really think about what exactly am I doing during my plan time. And I made a list, and I tried to condense it as fast as I can, so here I go. I try to create personalized learning activities based upon the students I have at the time I have them. I complete IEP forms, I go to IEP meetings, I respond to parent emails, student emails, district emails, curriculum leader emails, building emails, team leader emails. I complete all the districts from the survey. All the surveys that come out from the district. I'm proactive in communicating with our parents. I respond to all of my FACS teachers within the district and in my own team. I grade, I create lessons in Schoology, I update Schoology. Not only do I create lessons in Schoology, but I make sure students who are sick have lessons at home. I also grocery shop 2 to 3 hours a week, and that has been taken away due to just the inflation of using Instacart, but it'll go back to 2 to 3 hours a week, which I'm really concerned about. In addition to all of that, I also program those lovely electronic babies that you guys take home in child development, and I do a lot of troubleshooting. I also, most importantly, talk with administrators face-to-face, counselors face-to-face, case managers, team members, and admin regarding my concerns for students. And that's what I am. I'm a teacher, I love what I do, and I'm really afraid this is going to negatively impact students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Joshua Tepkin. He'll be followed by Susan Herman and Riley Hulsman.
Good evening. My name is Josh. I'm an exchange student from Germany. And like the two exchange students speaking before me, I wanted to thank my school, Parkway West High, especially Principal McCabe, he was here somewhere, for giving me the opportunity to stand here in the first place. A lot of people don't know it, but for foreign exchange students, it's especially hard to often get a school rather than actually a family. So sometimes family accept a student, but the school says no, which leads to the exchange students not being able to do their exchange here. So other than that, also very thankful to my swim team, and especially my swim coach, Coach Glean, with which I started out before the school year started, because they really made it so much easier for me to start the exchange year, to go to school first day and know some people there, know where to sit at lunch with friends. So once again, thank you to my swim coach, and thank you for giving students the ability to have an exchange year. Thank you.
Next up is Susan Herman.
Hi, my name is Susan Herman, and I am a parent of 4 Parkway students, and I'm also a resident of the district, and I am a teacher in the district. In 2012, my husband and I moved from Rockwood to Parkway South High's attendance area, specifically for science education. We knew that our kids would be able to do science regularly at Parkway South High School because of that department's commitment to a lab-based education. And while 2 of my kids have graduated and benefited greatly from that, we still have 2 more to go. And I don't want their educational opportunities compromised because teacher plan time is being reduced. Science teachers need time to set up and break down labs, and that's a safety concern as well. That cannot happen at home. That can't happen on a teacher's personal time. Please don't make it impossible for not only my kids, but all of Parkway's students to not be able to do science in a laboratory sense. The subject of science is not the only curricular area to consider. That's, Monica spoke to that as well, where plan time is used in this kind of a manner. But I've only got 2 minutes to talk, and much like I can't make more time to talk, teachers can't make more time than the 24 hours we're all given in a day. I want my 2 younger kids to be able to have the same extracurricular opportunities that my older 2 kids had. They deserve to have a softball coach or a swim coach that can come to practices and games prepared. And some of that preparation simply cannot be done outside of school hours. When you take away plan time, something has to give, and some of that's especially true for coaches and for sponsors. Either teaching and learning is going to be compromised, or coaching. I don't want that to be taken at the expense of my children or any of the Parkway's children. Please reconsider the push to reduce teacher plan time. Thank you.
Next up, we have Riley Hewelson.
Is it all right if all 3 of us speak, as I'll be standing 2 minutes?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Riley Hilsman, and I'm a member of Parkway Swim Club's national team. We, Parkway Swim Club, are one big family. As a swimmer of Parkway Swim Club for the last 11 years, I'm incredibly worried about the future of our younger generation of swimmers. Those, like my brother, won't be able to attend these practices if there's too many people in the pool. Unfortunately, with the proposed merger, the Parkway Swim Club may not be as affordable, and most importantly, the coaches may not be there for those who made me who I am today.
Hello, my name is Daniel Budeman. I've been a part of Parkway competitive swimming for 8 years, and I've been just part of Parkway Swim Club for about 10 years for learning. I'm here to talk about the affordability and its effects on Parkway Swim Club. The increased costs will, as we know, probably limit how many swimmers can go. I can imagine that probably a good portion of swimmers here will not be able to afford going to swim. Swimming is not really something that I see as, oh, you can afford going to swim? No, I see, oh, you know how to swim? There's no price segment that goes with that. I don't know if a future merged club between Rockwood and Parkway with limited swimmers who are only there because they can afford it, can we really trust that destroying Parkway's legacy and making certain swimmers not be able to swim will really bring us to greater heights?
Hello, my name is Izzy Ackley, and I would also like to speak on my concern for the Parkway and Rockwood merger, and for the future of these programs. What will this merge look like, and how will it affect our younger and older swimmers? How will this increased cost affect us losing our family? And what will practice look like with the difficulty to improve whenever there is no lane space, and travel is a whole other aspect that puts our swimmers at risk? I'm sure many parents can agree with me when they say that they don't want our swimmers driving during rush hour or driving long distances. It has already affected our older swimmers by having us lose an amazing coach who has stood there and built our confidence and affected our lives. Thank you for letting us talk, and we appreciate you knowing that it affects a very big community.
We'll now take a brief recess and resume the meeting shortly. Am I on? I feel like I'm on. There's nobody here. If we all just left, no one would know, right? All right, so, next up is the approval of tonight's agenda. May I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda for the regular meeting of the Board of Education as scheduled for today, May 17th, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
Should beat you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. The next regular board meeting will take place on Wednesday, June 14th, 2023, beginning at 7 p.m. right here at the Parkway Welcome Center. Next up is 10.02, Board Superintendent Reports. We'll start with Matt.
All right, I'll thank everybody who spoke tonight. Thank you for all your time coming out. And then really, I'll say one thing. It's a very positive event. I just want to say the Future Educator Signing event was the most positive experience I've had in a long time. It was for high school seniors who are going into education, but whether it be elementary, middle, or high school, they had a signing event. They had teachers come back speaking. Dr. Vargas gave them all business cards for once they graduate, they can come back to Parkway. And just the fact that the kids actually recognized two of the influences of why they want to be a teacher. And they were in the room. This room was packed with parents and educators. And we've already discussed that next year we can't hold it here. We have to go to a larger space. So my appeal tonight, everybody here, come back to that event next year, because it is a really positive, fun event, and something we do need in Parkway.
Thanks, Matt. A lot of things happened this past month. I'm not going to go through them all because I would just take away from everybody else going forward. But a few things I want to highlight. I attended the district art fair, the art show. It was amazing. Both my daughters bought a piece of pottery, or of the empty bowls from students, student-made pieces. We had an appreciation evening for all of recognizing teachers, staff, citizens of the community. It was a great event. This morning, I was at the Parkway West Honor Ceremony. My second year going to that, a wonderful event honoring academic, athletic excellence at Parkway West. But lastly, I want to say, as a parent, I was able to do a lot this past month with my daughter's school. I was a mystery reader for my youngest. We had a passport night, which is the international night for students, and we also had an outdoor movie night. So as a parent, it's really amazing to see what you can do at your schools, and I encourage every parent out there that's hopefully listening at home to go out and do things with your school. There's so many things, so many events, and it's really an amazing thing to do.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Well, tonight I want to call attention to something that I learned about and then actually heard on local public radio, and I was excited to hear about it on my drive home from work. And that was in the past month, Maria Vargas of the U.S. Department of Energy came to Parkway specifically to see some of the many things we're doing to enhance sustainability. From geothermal to LED lights, solar panels, and composting. Parkway has done things as a district that has helped to save over $100,000 in energy costs, and I think that's fantastic. You know, that's something I'm personally passionate about, and I'm so excited to see that happening throughout the district. It's something we've been briefed on, but to hear that spoken about in the public record on public radio like that for everyone to hear about made me truly proud. So thank you to CFO Bedborough and all of those who make the decisions that lead us in that direction.
So as we enter our final weeks of the school year, I want to first take the time to thank all of our teachers for all the hard work that they have put into our students, to educate them, to support them, to encourage them. Last week was Teachers Appreciation Week, and I know that there were lots of parents and students that showered our teachers with gifts and appreciation, and those are the things that they deserve every day. So I just want to thank you, teachers, for all that you do. I also had the opportunity this morning to attend West High's honor ceremony. They honored over 380, I believe, West High students, and my daughter was one of them. So that was a nice addition to that. It was a great event, but I also want to take time to congratulate all of our students that have progressed through this school year. We spend a lot of time honoring the students that are excelling academically or in sports, but I want to make sure that our students that are struggling and they're persevering to get through school are congratulated as well. It takes a lot of hard work to accomplish the things that you're doing. So congratulations to you as well. And then one last thing, I forgot to mention this last month, and I don't want to forget it again, but I want to say congratulations to our Parkway District Step Team for being national champions. They recently competed in Dallas. That was their last competition of the year. Came back with first place, and I believe they have remained undefeated in Dallas for the last at least 3 years. So congratulations to them.
This might have been my flakiest month as a board member, but the night of the Parkway North Honors Night event was also the night there was an orchestra concert at my son's school, and so I had to miss the Parkway North event, and Principal Jones was nice enough to highlight my absence at the event by announcing me and pointing to an empty chair, which I learned after the fact. But my son's orchestra concert, Belle Reve, was a delight, and it highlights something I love about Parkway, which is that all of our kids learn to play the violin early and get involved in music. And, they don't all go on to a career in fine arts, but they all have that exposure and gets them excited and propels them into different directions. And I just think it's a really valuable experience. And I just want to acknowledge all of the speakers tonight. I think everyone spoke well. I particularly enjoy every year when we hear from the foreign exchange students, the kids that come here with an entirely different perspective and how much the experience means to them. And I always really enjoy hearing from them. One day I hope to host a foreign exchange student. My wife always talks about how she wanted to have another child, and she always gets excited when she gets the phone call from me and say, "Hey, we're gonna get another kid. And he's gonna be a 16-year-old German boy." And she's not, the excitement kind of flutters away, but one day we'll make it.
This has been a very busy month. On April 20th, I attended the Chesterfield Kiwanis Prayer Breakfast with Dr. Marty, Jeff Todd, Paul Tandy, and Sandy Rachel from the Parkway Alumni Association. It was very inspirational messages, a lot of information on the various different efforts that the Kiwanis support. So I was very, very honored to be there. There was government relations meeting at Pattonville, which I attended as well. That was a nice event to get to meet some of the other legislators in the various different areas and talk about what's going on around with education legislation. And then the other thing that I'll skip over some of the other things. One other thing that I did was attended on the planning committee. I was asked to be on the planning committee for the St. Louis County School Board PLC, which is its professional learning community. And this is an effort that is put together by all of the St. Louis County school districts to come together a couple of times a year to delve into some specific topics related to education, students, governance, and to learn from each other as to what each of the other schools are doing. So it's a wonderful opportunity, and I would like to encourage my fellow board members to attend the next, one of the annual meetings will be on June 1st at Rogers Middle School from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. And they'll be having some guest speakers and breakout sessions, and it would be a wonderful opportunity to meet other board members from other districts as well.
I will try not to reiterate anything my fellow board members have already shared, but I will reiterate Matt's sentiments about the future teacher signing event. It was outstanding. It was one of those events that I left and I just felt so good about what we're doing here in Parkway and the future of educators coming from Parkway. So I'm looking forward to that continuing each year. We all did attend a board workshop since our last board meeting, and we spent most of a Saturday here in this room talking about, well, Kevin, his chair was absent again. But I would like to thank all of the administrators that spent that day with us, and we worked on a lot of long-range planning and big picture stuff, and so those are always very informative, interesting events. On the 26th, I did something that was unique. we keep hearing, the last couple of weeks about all the gifts that teachers have been getting, and deservedly so. Mason Ridge did a unique thing this year, and they asked parents or volunteers to give teachers the gift of time. And so they provided a volunteer opportunity. I signed up, and I worked an hour of recess duty on the playground, while the teachers that normally would have been on the playground got to do something else, not sit on the playground with, watching kids play kickball or whatever. It was a great experience for me because it was my elementary school where I played lots of times, and I'm sure got in trouble lots of times, but I didn't have to discipline any kids, so that was good. And it was a beautiful day, and really enjoyed doing that. I also spoke to the Rho Kappa Society for their induction ceremony a couple of weeks ago. It was invited by actually one of our honorees here tonight to talk to them about the importance of social studies and their love for that work, that area of study in school. A lot of great kids that I got a chance to talk to and meet, and where they're headed. Some of them already have declared they're going to be teachers, and so that was exciting. And then last week, I attended the Granting Dreams ceremony. We granted, I think, 180 dreams of students in Parkway, just tens of thousands of dollars that the Alumni Association raises each year in gifts to students to pursue things that are of interest to them. And I heard everything from kids that want to take sewing classes, to kids that want to learn to scuba dive, to kids that want to learn more about veterinary science, and so many different things. So that was great. And then lastly, Dr. Marty and I attended the Oasis annual luncheon last year. That's something that we haven't been able to do since before the pandemic. Oasis, if you're not aware, is a group of mostly, I think, retired people who are paired with an individual student at different elementary schools, and they come in and they spend an hour or two a week with a certain student, and they stay with that student all year long, or at least a semester long, and help that student with reading. Reading comprehension, lots of different literacy tools that are employed, and it's even more than teaching them to read, helping them to become better readers, but they become a better, or another trusted adult in the building. And these kids that are first, second, third, fourth graders that struggle to read now have someone that they can count on to give them the personalized one-on-one attention that they need in so many cases. So I was glad to see that return. So that's all I got.
And I bet you covered a lot on my list. I just want to say to Tiffany that we will be honoring the STEP team in the June meeting as part of we do a lot of athletes and athletic teams, so we're going to recognize them. I had the opportunity the last month to speak to the West Middle Junior National Honor Society. And I also wanted to say that every middle school now has a junior chapter, and our junior high or middle school chapter. And so that was one. I attended Southwest and Northeast, and I think we still have inductions coming up in some of the other middle schools. But it's good to see that. It's really encouraging students who are doing well academically, and then all the other pillars of service and character to certainly maintain that. So that's been a great addition. I have to give Kevin Martin at Northeast started that a couple years ago, and he's got his peers now moving forward with that as well. The legislature session is over, and as far as education is concerned, we don't have a lot of impacts, quite honestly. Patty could share some things from a financial aspect, but nothing in terms of some of the concerns we had and some of the issues I know Matt and others had talked about, and Debbie we had worried about at the legislative meeting we had. So again, not a lot of changes. We had more changes last year, as we are still dealing with some of the changes from legislation last year. I do want to just say, just in the last couple of days, Parkway has really been honored through an organization called the International Society for Technology and Education. Maybe you've seen the term ISTE. Bill Bass, one of our administrators, is very active in that organization. And they've named 3 distinguished districts that are using technology to innovate and move students to the future. Those 3 districts are the Atlanta Public Schools, the Los Angeles Unified School District, and the Parkway School District. That's a pretty good company, isn't it? And Kevin may know more, but Bill has certainly been a major part of that, and so many of our educators and teachers. So that's quite an honor. We'll talk more about that in the future, I'm sure. And then the other graduations, of course, we know are coming up. I did ride buses last week, and I just want to say that Will and his bus drivers are doing a great job this year, still struggling to get enough drivers, and I think he's down a couple of mechanics, but that's a group, as we're thanking people, we want to make sure we're thanking our bus drivers as well. And I think that covers, all of you covered pretty much the other items. So tomorrow we start graduations at Fern, and then on a race to get around. And then I also shared with you, I think, the middle school graduations or ceremonies. If you want to go to any of those should be, we can support those as well. But thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have a pretty healthy consent agenda, which we've all had an opportunity to review. So may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented in the May 17th, 2023 board materials?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Is there anything to be pulled to action or closed? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Next up is Parkway's participation in the SRSN demonstration project waiver request. So I'll invite Dr. Kevin Beckner to return to the podium.
Thank you very much, President Todd, Vice President Hopper, Dr. Marty, members of the board, Mrs. Stover. As you saw in a memo you received previously and have heard about at previous meetings, including the one in, I believe, September, when you approved our participation in the Success Ready Student Network, specifically the system design zone as part of that. That work has continued on, and we are now at the point where we need action on your part. So first, what is the Success Ready Student Network? Here's a long timeline. It did not come out of nowhere. This has been part of work going on at the state level now for over a decade. So you see it started with a proficiency-based task force way back beginning of last decade. Some other things happened. Parkway jumped in around that 2017 mark with the Missouri Assessment Partnership, which we have been part of since its inception at that time. And if you jump a couple more down, in 2022, DESE formed what they called a Success Ready Students Work Group. Myself and Dr. Jennifer Stanfill represented Parkway as part of that work. And really the goal coming out of that was, how do we make sure that all of our students are ready for whatever their next level is? How do we make sure, particularly coming out of the pandemic, that we are preparing students who are ready for success? And that group made multiple recommendations, and out of that group came the Success Ready Student Network, which was charged with implementing the recommendations that the DESE group had come up with. And that's part of what brings us here today. So part of this work, there's a lot that's in the demonstration project, including professional development, including building competency-based mindsets, which is work that we certainly have planned here in Parkway and are already beginning. But the biggest part of this is that we are asking for the board's approval to be part of this demonstration project, one piece of which is filing a federal waiver request to change how we do state testing and are held accountable. So specifically, two things. It will allow us, if approved, to design a better way to measure student achievement and growth. So right now we know we do the MAP test once a year, and they have lots of math behind how they calculate student growth, but largely we can't see that. We can't see how quickly students are growing through that measure. And we know we get the results awfully late, to the point where it's not actually valuable for students and the teacher, because it's far too late for them to take any action in response to that. We would then use those new measures, if approved, in our state accountability, because we know growth is part of our accountability, is how well our students improving over time. So that's really the biggest part of that. So think about how is that better, a couple of things. One, in demonstrating that there's a better way to do this, we would show that we can provide students, families, teachers quicker, more actionable results that are focused on students that we can actually use to make improvements in their learning. In short, it means being able to use the assessments that we do multiple times a year to also use those for our state and federal accountability. And we know the board approved, I believe, 2 months ago, the purchase of NWEA as our new benchmarking tool. So that would actually be the system that we would potentially be able to use. That will allow us to monitor student growth throughout the year, not just 1 year to 1 year, but actually see how quickly are students progressing throughout the school year in English and math in grades 3 through 8. And it also includes a focus on readiness for high school at the K-8 level, I should say grades 3 through 8 level, but also how well are students being prepared for post-secondary. So another part of that request is to include in our accountability measures students earning these things called market value assets, which means that students would be leaving high school with credentials that they can use for whatever their next pursuit is, whether that's college and thinking about dual credits and AP exams, or whether that's industry partnerships, whether that be trade or some other business certifications or things that are actually valuable to them. Because right now, that is not a part of the state accountability measure. So these are things that we can include, and that lines up really well with what you've seen from us multiple times in our district CSIP, where we want students to identify their purpose and their path for whatever they want to pursue beyond school. So really well aligned to work that we are already doing. So tonight's motion, or what we're asking the board to approve, is our participation in the Success Ready Student Network, and specifically, part of that is that request for a federal waiver, and we're asking for the board's support as we pursue that process. I'd be happy to take any questions that you have.
Dr. Becker, you might want to just mention that this would go to the state board on June 6th.
June 6th, I believe you'll be present at that state board meeting, Dr. Marty. Yeah.
If the board approves this, they want the superintendents from the districts that are moving forward. I think there's about 25 or 30 districts.
Yep.
That would hopefully be at the state board meeting in support of the federal waiver request.
Sure enough.
I know that there was kind of a survey that went out to parents. I know you shared with us at our TLA the kind of what the sentiment was. Can you just explain?
Yeah, sure enough.
What that was?
So Paul Tandy and Andy Dickerson put out a community survey just to see part of showing that we have waiver support is telling our community, hey, we want to do this and get survey results. We had a very robust 50 or so responses on that, and of those 50, about 48 were like, yes, absolutely do this, and the other 2 were sort of like, depends how you do it. So, I mean, largely the support was very, very positive as we read through that. We also did discuss it for those of you who were at our steering committee, at our last steering committee meeting, and largely have just general support where people say, yes, if there's a better way to assess students growing and seeing how they're doing, it's important to note this isn't not doing testing, but this is doing it better, doing it in a way that's more valuable for kids, more valuable for teachers, more valuable for families. So generally, there's a sentiment that, yes, this seems like a good thing. We don't see a reason not to pursue that. We don't actually know, by participating, the federal government could still say, no, we're not going to give you the waiver. And we would be back sort of where we are, which would be okay. But by signing on to this, we have the opportunity that should that waiver be granted to have some more flexibility around designing a new system that would be better for everybody involved.
Could you share too, like the other districts locally that are going for the waiver too?
Yeah, Lindbergh is a big part of that. I know Ladue had been part. They're currently pausing right now. I believe University City, Dr. Marty might actually know because the superintendent's talked about this. Pattonville's a big player in this, so there are multiple local districts. But with 28 districts or so, they're being very conscious of having representation from all parts of the state, large districts, small districts, urban districts, rural districts. And so they do have that representation. So we do have a smattering of St. Louis County districts who are participating in that, but also really from all around the state. And so we'll get on calls and, you know, we'll say, we have 17,000 kids. And they'll be like, we have 170 kids. and you have that whole gamut. But yeah, we do have several local districts. And we've enjoyed our partnership through that because we participate in professional development and are on a lot of the same meetings. We're actually currently requesting a grant for some professional development through a different DESE part, and so getting to partner with some of those districts has also been really valuable in that.
Since you mentioned DESE, they have been in support and partnership.
For sure, at almost every meeting, the DESE person in charge of the accountability division, whose name is Lisa Serino, has been part of those conversations and has continued to indicate that DESE has support. I know that the leaders of the SRSN have met with Commissioner Van Dieven and are feeling very positive that DESE is supportive of this work because it aligns also with DESE would like in several years to redesign the MAP test anyway. And this would allow us to demonstrate that there is a model to do this that would benefit DESE in the long run.
question is, I know each year we get some information that talks about overall student achievement based on the MAP test. So what is that going to look like moving forward for our district in getting the results and the reports from these new assessments?
Yeah, excellent question. There's a whole group that's part of a sort of subgroup that's spun off that's just all about the metrics and how we will show that students are still, we still will have to have achievement levels. You'll still have to have advanced, proficient, basic, below basic. It's just using a different tool to generate that score. And then all the statistics people, which I keep referencing, there's a lot of math that goes into the back end of this that I wish I could understand, but I was a social studies teacher. But they will put it on the same scale so that we can still see like how many students, what % of students are proficient or advanced, just like we do now.
And will you be breaking those out by various different groups, like those with IEPs?
Still have to, just like we do now. Yep. This isn't a waiver from, those are really federal accountability requirements. We would still, and I keep saying this, there's still federal accountability, there's still state accountability, there's still testing. We're just showing a better way to do that. So yes, we would still have to break out those groups because that's actually part of federal requirements of what we have to do. Yep.
And Carter Snow has been part of that metrics group. correct?
Carter Snow has been one of the leaders on that group. We got some really smart minds, and we're very fortunate to have Carter with us. So he gives us kind of the inside perspective of what's happening there. And there's a lot going on in exactly your question. How do you do these metrics? That's part of what we have to show through that waiver request, that we do have the metrics to show that students are really learning, that are all valid and reliable and all those sorts of things. There is an effort as part of that work to, rather than just putting a number on schools like they do now, like we all know our APR score is 86.2. That's not super helpful, but they're actually looking at creating a whole dashboard that would show multiple different metrics so that any parent could log in and see, like, here's how these schools are doing on all these different pieces that would be part of DESI's system. So there's a lot there, but we are trying to show that there's a better way to do the things that we're required to do that are going to be better for kids, better for teachers, better for families. And so that's our hope is that this process continues to move forward and we can demonstrate that there's a good way to do that. I should note that in the meantime, we still have to do MAP testing, but we already are doing our benchmark assessments, so it's not adding more testing. This would really be, you no longer have to do the MAP test because you have these other measures that are already demonstrating how well students are learning.
Wait, repeat that again?
So let's say the waiver either doesn't get approved or even if it gets approved, right now we're saying we want to demonstrate that there's a way to do this. And while we're in that phase of showing, hey, here's how we do this, we would have to continue to do MAP testing along with our local assessments. So, which is really what we do now. We do our benchmark assessments now 3 times a year in ELA and math in grades really 2 through 8. So just like we would have to continue to do those, we'll still be doing MAP for a while. It wouldn't be going away for a couple years, even if this were approved, but it's setting the stage so that we can do that.
But then I'm sorry.
You might be going where I'm going, go ahead.
Where does the NWEA assessments then come in? Because I thought that was.
It's
going to be
replacing our
taken
benchmark
over
assessments.
MAP
Yep.
Instead, so now we're going to be doing both in tandem?
So currently, let's talk about next year, and then let's talk about beyond. So currently, we do benchmark assessments, which our teachers have written that we've been using for years. We do those multiple times per year, and then students do the MAP test in the spring. Next year, we are sunsetting our current assessments. So students will be doing the NWEA assessments 3 times a year and MAP testing in the spring. So that's a replacement. Then if the waiver is approved, there'll be a period where we have to demonstrate that all of this work is giving us all the data we need to show we don't need the MAP test. So then a couple years down the road, we would continue to do the 3 times a year NWEA assessment, but we would no longer have to do MAP because we could use that data to show all the same things that the MAP test is already showing.
I'll just add then too, I fully support this idea. I think it's great that Parkway's taking a lead on this. And I commend you and your staff too in the district for taking a lead on this, not just to help improve Parkway and work with our students, but it could be an example for the rest of the state too, which is pretty cool.
Well, the Success Ready Network, I mean, there's different, we are, we are kind of the, what's that, innovative, or what's?
System design zone.
System design.
Yeah.
And so there's different levels, so the next year they're hoping another group will join that network and continually to develop. And as Kevin said, a lot of development, a lot of PD, and those of us that are at the level of potentially moving forward will continue helping other districts or being examples for others. So to your point, Matt, yeah, it takes a group, and then others will join, and eventually, hopefully, there'll be more coming aboard.
Any further questions? Thank you, Dr. Knight.
Thank you.
So may I have a motion and a second that the Board of Education approve the resolution on participation in the Success Ready Students Network System Design Zone Demonstration Project with federal waiver request.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Next up is policy review. We have up for review 13.01, policy JECA.BP, eligibility to enroll. We have 13.02, policy KC.BP, community engagement, and policy, and agenda item 13.03 is policy BDDH.BP, public participation in board meetings. Any board members have questions for any administrators on any of these policies? I will mention regarding agenda item 13.02 and 13.03, community agenda or community engagement and public participation. One of the requirements, these are policies that stem from a new law that was passed last summer and goes into effect this summer. Part of that new law requires that we seek input from the community. We've been doing that for the last week or so on the website, and that will remain open for some time. We've already had about 50 or so responses. We just got the first group of those responses this afternoon, and I read through them, and there were some great suggestions. There were a lot of, it seemed like a lot of support, and there were a couple that said, well, you don't need to do anything, and so, but it was overwhelmingly supportive of the idea, and there were suggestions to change parts of the requirement, which we can't do because it's Missouri state law now. So we're following the law, and that's what we're doing. So did you have any?
My only, I think you two, I submitted some comments and suggestions, edits for discussion at some point, and shared it with the rest of the board, so hopefully we'll have an opportunity to.
Right. Well, we didn't, but we will, if you, we'll move to the next level, so
Yeah.
we'll include those and make sure those are noted.
Yeah, I
Okay.
just had a couple of wordsmithing
Yeah.
items, so.
Okay.
So we'll definitely include those.
Okay.
So will that be done, because at the next board meeting, we're gonna approve it, so we'll have this conversation before,
Well, we'll make the changes, and we'll certainly highlight them in the policies when Nikki sends that back out. And so,
Okay.
So if any of you else have, any of other board members have any changes, please get them to us in a timely manner. And then if there's any, any desire to talk about those, or you need to have any questions. But we would bring those back at the next board meeting for approval. But Jeff and Debbie's suggestions will be incorporated into those.
okay, thank you.
And again, these policies will be up for approval at the next board meeting. And also still invite you to weigh in with any ideas or suggestions on how we can improve that. Next up, we have a report, which we have several people who've been waiting very patiently to talk to us. So I'd like to welcome Alyssa Gratz, Special Services Coordinator, and Amy Blumenfeld, Director of Special Education, to begin the presentation.
I think Dr. Matheson.
And apparently Dr. Matheson is enjoying it.
Thank you, Mr. Todd and Vice President Hopper, Board of Education, Dr. Marty Mistover, for having us. In your packets 2 weeks ago, we gave it a little bit early because it is quite a thorough, it's a comprehensive review, but it was incredibly thorough with a lot of statistics and information. I actually just want to come up to the podium to thank Dr. Amy Blumenfeld and Ms. Alyssa Gratz and their teams for all the work that they put in, working with our subcommittee as well, getting some answers. This has been a year-long process to get us to this point. This is where we're coming in with recommendations, not necessarily solutions and answers, but to take all this information. So I appreciate also board members for your work and looking through those packets and reading that information. We've got a fantastic student services team and Alyssa and Amy, you'll hear on their presentation a lot of different information. I also want to thank Kimberly Hamilton, our school psychologist, for being here tonight, as she's an integral part of the work that we're doing also. So I'm going to turn all the expertise over to the two experts standing right behind me, and that's Alyssa and Amy. So thank you.
How do I advance slides?
Oh, here you go. Let me see. Questions? Good?
No.
Press down.
Okay, the down, okay. President Todd, Vice President Hopper, members of the board, and Dr. Marty and Mrs. Stover. We're going to start by asking you to hold your applause till the end. But we are pleased to be here on behalf of Parkway students with unique needs to review the amazing work being done by special education and general education staff to achieve the missions of both Parkway and the special school district. My name is Alyssa Gratz. I'm the coordinator of special services and have served in this role for 10 years. Prior to my current role, I served for 5 years as the district-wide school psychologist supporting schools with disability evaluations under Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. With me tonight is Dr. Amy Blumenfeld, the Special School District Special Education Director assigned to Parkway. This is Dr. Blumenfeld's second year with Parkway, and she was most recently a Special Education Coordinator at Marquette High School in Rockwood for 10 years. The third member of our Special Services Department serving Parkway district-wide is Kimberly Hamilton, our Parkway District School Psychologist. She served in this role for over 8 years and was previously a school psychologist with Special School District within Parkway.
All right, we'd like to begin with a review of our mission. The inclusion of the word all in both the Parkway and SSD mission statements is incredibly meaningful for the parents and educators working on behalf of students with disabilities, ensuring that each child's unique needs are recognized, they are honored and supported is the mission of our Special Services Department.
So tonight we hope to provide you with a brief yet comprehensive overview of the services and supports provided to students with disabilities, the number of students and types of needs of our amazing educators serve, how we ensure we are upholding the laws and regulations created to support students with disabilities, data on how our students with unique needs are growing and learning, our focus on equity for all, the use of financial resources committed to supporting students with disabilities, and how staff are supported with serving a wide variety of student needs. Dr. Blumenfeld, Mrs. Hamilton, and I all work closely with building leaders and a wide variety of department leaders throughout Parkway and SSD to ensure that students with disabilities are receiving what they need to be able to be successful in school. We work to ensure that parents and guardians are fully informed of their rights and protections and options. We support school teams with the problem-solving process for struggling learners, and we work to ensure Parkway and SSD are compliant with the federal regulations, state laws, and district policies related to students with special needs. We also provide staff training to ensure educators have the knowledge and skills needed to support diverse learners. And as school psychologists, Mrs. Hamilton and I also conduct evaluations to identify students with disabilities under Section 504.
So since the unique needs of students with disabilities range from physical, medical, learning, mental health, and behavioral, our department works collaboratively with almost every department in this school district. We ensure students' health and learning needs are supported during their school day, as well as ensuring supports are in place to allow students equal opportunity to equal opportunity to their non-disabled peers to participate in the extracurriculars. So you'll see our students participating throughout their entire Parkway experience. We help with school-sponsored trips such as 6th grade camp. We help with special events such as student dances and graduations to make sure there's equal access. There is also some overlap between early childhood and our special education school age populations. And so while the early childhood department is somewhat separate in some ways because they are funded through some grant opportunities, we make sure that there is overlap so that we are planning for their successful transition into the school age population. And that includes areas of technology, curriculum, and just those ESY needs to make sure that we are preparing them as they transition to their school age time with us.
So over the last 10 years, there have been a number of changes to the organizational structure of the Special Services Department. In 2013, the Director of Special Education was assigned the additional responsibility of serving as the Parkway Liaison to the SSD. Previously, the Partner District Liaison was served by the Parkway Director of Special Services, with that position being eliminated in 2013. The department was also reduced when a coordinator was transferred to the Teaching, Learning, and Accountability Department in 2011. And additionally, the department has shared an administrative assistant with the Discipline Department since 2013.
And as you can see on this slide, SSD provides educators with a wide range of skill sets, specialty areas to support all of our students with IEPs within the Parkway District. In total, I have over 450 special education staff members that are working throughout all of our schools. So you can see the wide variety of services that we provide throughout the county.
So in order to understand the importance of our current disability laws for students, we must know the history. People with physical differences, learning needs, and health or mental health impairments have actively worked to gain civil rights in the U.S. over the last 50 years. While the ESEA of 1965 helped to establish specialized centers for students with disabilities, it did not provide any guaranteed right to public education or inclusion with non-disabled peers. In 1973, the Rehabilitation Act was passed. Section 504 of that act is the first civil rights law to provide people with disabilities rights to access public education and also legal protection from discrimination. However, some government officials at the time refused to issue regulations, which effectively halted the implementation of Section 504. It took a group of fearless and committed citizens to stage the longest sit-in the U.S. history for it to go into effect. In 1977, protesters occupied federal buildings in several cities, including San Francisco and Washington, D.C. The San Francisco sit-in lasted 25 days with more than 150 people refusing to leave the federal building. And then the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act was the culmination of a movement that began in 1971 when a U.S. District Court ruled it unlawful to deny exceptional children publicly funded educational opportunities. So the Parkway Special Services budget covers the needs of students with disabilities under Section 504. This includes assistive equipment such as amplification devices for students with hearing impairments, as well as services such as occupational and physical therapy. For students who need homebound services for temporary impairments, as well as students who have 504 plans who are unable to attend school regularly, the Special Services Department pays for homebound teaching services. Other costs covered by our department include American Sign Language interpreters for parents and patrons attending Parkway-sponsored activities, meetings, and performances, professional development and travel for myself and our district school psychologist, Mrs. Hamilton, the Section 504 online document management system, and Section 504 training materials. It's important to note that Section 504 is an unfunded mandate, and there is no federal, state, or local funding specifically allocated for Section 504 services, staff, or supports. Conversely, the special education funding is funded at the federal, state, and local levels, which in St. Louis County goes directly to the special school district. The SSD covers all costs related to staffing for special education. The SSD also pays for any specialized adaptive equipment and assistive technology specific to an individual student with an IEP. The SSD covers the cost for students who are placed by their IEP team in an alternative school placement, as well as specialized transportation services. Since Parkway has been identified by MoDESI as having a disproportionate number of black students with IEPs being suspended as compared to their white peers with IEPs, SSD and Parkway have been collaborating over the past 3 years on ways to use the 15% special education funding to reduce disproportionality. Shared costs between the two districts include supports for students with IEPs who require additional supports to participate in before and after school activities, such as extra adult support and sign language interpreters. So Parkway currently has just under 17,000 students enrolled. Approximately 22% of those students receive support and services for disabilities and developmental delays through an IEP or 504 plan.
And as Dr. Matheson highlighted, much of our report is a lot of figures. So we have 301 Parkway students with IEPs that are being served through the Early Childhood Education Program currently. Over 2,400 Parkway students in kindergarten through age 21 have IEPs. We are actually just under 2,700 currently. And there are 926 Parkway students who qualify as a person with a Section 504 disability. The number of students qualifying for an IEP in Parkway has been steadily decreasing over the past 15 years, while the number of students qualifying under Section 504 has been increasing. Parkway School District's overall student enrollment has also slightly decreased over the past few years.
So as this graph illustrates, the number of students qualifying under Section 504 has risen exponentially over the last 15 years. Prior to the Americans with Disabilities Amendments Act of 2008, very few students qualified under Section 504 since the eligibility criteria was really stringent. Students with that level of impairment would most often qualify for an IEP, therefore not needing a 504 evaluation and plan. Congress then intentionally lowered the eligibility bar in 2008 to ensure that more people with disabilities are protected from discrimination under both the ADA and Section 504. And then guidance from the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights was issued in 2012, which further clarified the new 504 eligibility criteria for public schools. Superintendent's action team determined the 504 evaluation responsibility should be decentralized to building its assistant principals beginning in the fall of 2016. Assistant principals also began serving as 504 case managers, which was previously the role of school counselors and school nurses. Section 504 is often thought of as applying only to students who have physical or health impairments. However, of the 926 students who qualify under Section 504, the majority have a 504 plan to address symptoms of ADHD. 38% of 504 eligible students have a mental health impairment. Most students have more than one diagnosis, thus requiring a 504 plan to address multiple disabilities and symptoms. Disabilities of our students with physical and medical impairments include diabetes, asthma, bowel and bladder issues, spina bifida, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, leukemia and other cancers, physical and motor movement disorders, autoimmune disorders, genetic disorders, juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, celiac disease, and sickle cell anemia. Some students with learning disorders, language impairments, and cognitive or intellectual disabilities do not qualify for an IEP. This could be due to not meeting the strict special education eligibility criteria set by the Missouri Department of Education, even though they do have a need for specially designed instruction and support services. And in other cases, students only require general education supports and do not need special education services.
So as you can see, we have every disability represented here within the Parkway School District. Earlier in one of the previous slides, I noted that our population has been slightly decreasing. And we've decreased by 190 students over the past few years. 110 of those are within the speech impairment population. So you can see that is one of the smaller parts on our graph up here. And that can be attributed to the new model of how students qualify and the RTI interventions that are necessary before evaluation. IEP and 504 teams must make every effort to keep a student in the general education setting at their neighborhood school, which is considered what we call our least restrictive environment. When accommodations, modifications, services, and supports available in the neighborhood school are not sufficient to meet the student's unique needs, alternative educational placements are considered by our teams. Services and supports for students with disabilities range from accommodations in the general education setting, classrooms, to specialized instruction in a special education classroom, or to specialized schools with one-on-one teaching or in the home or hospital. All accommodations, modifications, services, and supports are individually tailored to meet each student's unique needs, and they are determined by the 504 or IEP team. As compared to districts across Missouri, Parkway has done an amazing job of serving our students right in their neighborhood school. Most of our students are able to operate there. Considerably more Parkway students with IEPs receive 80% or more of their weekly educational minutes in a general education setting here within Parkway, as compared to students with IEPs throughout Missouri. Research is clear that inclusion of students with disabilities in the general education classroom is beneficial for all of our students, with both positive short-term and long-term effects for all. Within Parkway, approximately 50 students from across St. Louis County region currently attend our Deaf Hard of Hearing program, which this year is located at Belle Reve, West Middle, and West High School. Next year, we're excited that we will be welcoming about 50 to 60 additional students into this program, as SSD is consolidating our Deaf Hard of Hearing locations into one place, Parkway School District. Approximately 31 of our students have been placed by their IEP team at a school other than their neighborhood school to access specialized autism programming that it provides intensive applied behavior analysis, or ABA programming. It is worth noting that with the exception of one school within Parkway, every single school within Parkway does have ABA services. So these 31 students just require a higher level of implementation and wraparound support, but all of our Parkway schools do have ABA within their neighborhood schools. 64 Parkway students attend an SSD specialized school, such as a Litzinger or New Owner or Southview, if you're familiar with our school names, and that is determined by their IEP team. Another 6 Parkway students are attending what we consider our non-public schools with highly specialized services for our students with the most complex of needs. Homebound is what is considered our most restrictive placement, and that is, it's not frequently used if we can limit that, but that placement is necessary at times to meet a student's needs for short-term or long-term while they are unable to consistently attend school within person.
All students can learn and succeed, but not in the same way and not in the same day. One data point to provide insight into the academic progress of students with disabilities in middle and high school is the grade point average. On average, students with both IEPs and 504 plans have lower GPAs as compared to non-disabled peers. This school year, Parkway's total student population has an attendance rate of 84%. Parkway students with IEPs have been in attendance approximately 77% of the school year. And of the approximately 900 Parkway students who qualify under Section 504, the average attendance rate is 75%. At the end of the first semester of this school year, Missouri as a total had an overall student attendance rate of 76%, similar to that of our 504 and IEP subgroups.
Within Parkway, students with IEPs are consistently performing higher than students with IEPs throughout Missouri for both ELA and math. Parkway students without an IEP or 504 plan earned an average composite score of 22.94, while the subgroup of students with 504 plans scored a bit higher at 23.7. Both of these groups scored higher than the total number of students in Missouri who took the ACT that year, which was an average of 20.3. Students with IEPs in Parkway had the lowest average ACT score, falling at 17.76. It is worth noting that the ACT reports 66% of all 2022 graduates in Missouri that took the test, which does include both public and private. The total number of students is unavailable, the total number unavailable graduates. Next slide, we have, as compared to the total population of Parkway students, students with IEPs are less likely to graduate within 4 years. However, more Parkway students with IEPs graduate within 4 years as compared to Missouri students with IEPs during most years in recent past. It is important to note that while some students do not graduate in 4 years, that is purposeful on the part of the IEP team because we're working on other skills that need to continue to be developed past the 4-year plan. So that decision is made by the IEP team, which includes the family and the educators that are working with those students. And it may include some job training skills up until age 21 for some of our students. So into some of the fun information. Education is definitely more than just learning reading, writing, and arithmetic. For some students with disabilities, their services include intentional and coordinated support to improve socialization, emotional regulation, self-care, self-advocacy, time management, organization, and life skills to serve them beyond the classroom walls. To further support development in these areas, a variety of school day and extracurricular programs are provided within Parkway, which are including but not limited to Special Olympics, which is hosted by all 4 of our Parkway high schools. And all of our high schools are working towards becoming what Special Olympics called unified schools. And what that means is it is a higher level of participation from gen ed and special education and all of the prep work and activities that they do. So we are proud that Parkway South High School is our first of the 4 high schools to achieve this status for all of their work. Abilities awareness events include activities and guest speakers, which promote diversity and inclusion. Mentor high school classes in the subject areas of PE, family and consumer sciences, music and theater arts, pair students with and without disabilities to work together on curriculum and activities which meet the needs of all learners. And Best Buddies, which is present within our Parkway School District, where it's a program that builds one-to-one friendships between people with and without intellectual and developmental disabilities, offering social interactions while improving the quality of life and level of inclusion for our population that at times may feel isolated and excluded.
So the headlines are impossible to ignore. Mental health of young people is definitely a pressing issue, which parents, schools, community, we all must rally to address and support our young people as they navigate this ever-changing world. Both Section 504 and special education provide supports and services to students with mental health impairments, which are substantially limiting or adversely affecting their educational performance. As mentioned previously, approximately 340 students, or 38%, qualifying under Section 504 have a diagnosed mental health impairment, such as anxiety disorders, clinical depression, and bipolar disorder.
For the current school year, 198 Parkway students with IEPs have qualified in the category of emotional disturbance, which covers students with mental health difficulties in need of specialized services. Over the past 5 years, the number of students qualifying in this category has increased for us. Not only are we seeing an increase in the number of students qualifying for an IEP due to mental health reasons, but we have also observed an increase in the amount of direct service minutes that our educators are providing, which has led the special school district to board approve an additional social worker position that will be joining us in Parkway beginning with the 2023 this year? 2023, 2024. So welcoming a new staff member.
So as you'll learn more from our student services colleagues, Dr. Schulte and Mrs. Magaja, when they present to you on mental health services in Parkway next school year, Tier 1 supports, such as classroom lessons presented by our school counselors, meet the mental wellness needs of many students. Approximately 1% of Parkway's total student population currently qualifies for an IEP due to mental health reasons, which falls in the Tier 3 level. And approximately 2% of all Parkway students have a 504 plan for mental health reasons. Most of these students require only Tier 2 services and supports, but some do have a need for intensive Tier 3 services, such as homebound services, care coordinator support, and individualized scheduling and coursework when their academic progress has been impacted. Students with 504 plans for mental health disabilities are provided with supports and accommodations, such as due date extensions, allowed to take a short break in or out of the classroom, not being put on the spot or called on by a teacher when their hand isn't raised, given extra support from teachers with planning their approach to multi-step projects, testing accommodations to address test anxiety. Additionally, students are provided access to and support from general education mental health staff, including the school counselor, care coordinator, social emotional behavior specialists, and social workers, who often collaborate with the student's community mental health care provider to better understand how schools can support their mental wellness. For some students, attending school regularly and consistently is impacted by their mental health, and we are able to provide a teacher to meet with that student in their home or another public place to support their progress with their Parkway classes. For students with 504 plans, Parkway reimburses the SSD homebound department for those services.
So students with IEPs for mental health needs have additional supports and services, in addition to the general education supports that Alyssa just mentioned. IEPs include clear goals for the student's growth and the minutes of service from special educators, which are needed to support progress on those goals. IEPs may include service minutes to learn and practice emotional regulation skills with either a special educator, or psychological counseling with a special education social worker. Time potentially in our KEYS classroom, which is, we love our acronyms, it's keeping every youth successful, to support their mental wellness, or consultation by what we consider our behavior interventionists. We have administrators and teacher level staff that serve in those positions. We also look at intensive case management that can be provided by a special education teacher who may have an average caseload that is lower than the approximate resource teacher who carries a caseload somewhere in the ballpark of about 20 students. So our KEYS teachers can carry a lower caseload.
So equity data in Parkway, as it relates to students of color and those identified as having a disability, suggests areas where we may be over-identifying disabilities, as well as areas where we may be under-identifying students of color who can and should qualify for disability rights and protections. More specifically, 15.5% of students in Parkway are Black, but only 10.8% of the students qualifying under Section 504 are, while 20.3% of students with IEPs are Black. Additionally, there is an underrepresentation of Asian students qualifying for 504 and IEPs as compared to the total Parkway population of Asian students. The vast majority of Parkway students with 504 plans are white, suggesting disproportionate practices with referrals under Section 504, and parents and guardians initiate the majority of those 504 evaluation referrals. Regarding Section 504, there may be an issue of under-identification due to limited resources to evaluate all of the students who may qualify.
Since Parkway has been identified by DESE as having a disproportionate number of Black students qualifying for an IEP being issued lengthy suspensions, funding has been allocated to the special school district to be used within Parkway exclusively to address this issue. Beginning in the 2021-2022 school year, the special school district has provided Parkway with coordinated early intervention services, or what you hear us use our acronym of CEIS. It's a team to reduce the disproportionate number of Black and Brown students being referred for and eligible for IEPs. CEIS are services provided to students in kindergarten through grade 12. However, we do place a particular emphasis on that early intervention, so that kindergarten through third grade, who are not currently identified as needing special education or related services, but who might need additional academic or behavioral support to succeed in the general education environment. The intent of disability rights laws is to ensure equal access and opportunity as their non-disabled persons are afforded. This includes optional academic programs. While approximately 15% of the total Parkway student population has a special education disability, only 5.5% of Parkway's gifted student population has an IEP, so that twice exceptional population that we refer to. Only 2.2% of the just over 1,800 students in Parkway enrolled in at least one advanced placement course have an IEP. 5.2% of the 210 students in the Spark program have an IEP. And at Fern Ridge, 21.9% of the students enrolled have an IEP. This data indicates we may need to further investigate if we are adequately identifying and serving students with advanced potential, which is masked potentially by a learning disability.
Due to the medical model influence on special education, there's a systemic focus on fixing students who are labeled with a disability instead of creating learning environments that adapt classrooms to meet their needs and acknowledge their social identity. So this quote underscores the importance of building capacity of all educators to meet each child's unique needs. Intentional planning and collaboration between general and special education has been occurring in Parkway in recent years and will continue as it is a key area of the SSD and partner districts education partnership agreement. On the most recent survey of staff from the Talent Development Office, Parkway staff requested professional learning opportunities in a variety of areas related to serving students with a wide variety of needs, including emotional and behavioral, learning differences, and executive functioning skills.
In addition to courses on these topics being included in the Parkway Professional Learning courses, a special education learning strand was included in the 2022 New Educator Orientation, and information is routinely shared at leadership and staff meetings throughout Parkway. The special school district also hosts an annual summer Principal Leadership Academy open to building administrators throughout St. Louis County. And if any of you were watching our PAC meeting this past week, Dr. Marty got a shout out for having the most Parkway administrators registered annually for this institute. So Parkway definitely puts an emphasis behind that shared professional development and the importance of it. This opportunity, for those who have not registered, and we want to continue to get them to register, it's a valuable opportunity for both new and veteran building administrators, as they are key stakeholders in supporting and serving students who qualify for IEPs.
So now, time for recommendations for growth and improvement. As illustrated by the information and data presented tonight, there's more work to do to address the rapidly rising number of students under Section 504. We recommend creation of a 504 Roles and Responsibilities Task Force, comprised of a variety of staff members involved with Section 504, including building administrators, school counselors, school nurses, and district leaders. We recommend addressing potential under-identification by auditing our student information systems, such as the school nurse student data system, to determine if there's students who may qualify as a person with a disability under Section 504 but have not yet been referred for an evaluation. To continue increasing the knowledge of staff regarding Section 504 and their role in serving students with disabilities, the Special Services Department will work with Talent Development Coordinator to create a series of Section 504 informational videos for staff to access on demand. Additionally, we recommend a more intentional planning in the professional development calendars with input from staff who are directly responsible for Section 504 evaluations and case management. To identify areas for improvement in the 504 process from the perspective of parents and guardians and students, an online survey will be developed to obtain feedback on their experience after Section 504 evaluations and 504 meetings. To ensure we are meeting all students' disability-related needs under Section 504, an audit of current 504 plans will be conducted to determine how we can best utilize our general education resources.
To ensure Parkway and the special school district are fulfilling the agreements laid out in our educational partnership agreement, which the Board of Education signs off on every fall, the director, along with Parkway's TLA department, will conduct a gap analysis. So this is where Dr. Beckner's department is invaluable to us. We partner up with them to look at where our resources need to be put so that we can continue to have that high level of inclusion of students with special needs within their general education classroom and still make sure that we are meeting their needs. So we will continue to do that gap analysis and determine if we need to develop any relevant district committees, action teams, or task forces, or include members on those. Since students with external evaluations identifying learning disorders in reading and dyslexia are not consistently qualifying for special education services as a result of DESE's discrepancy model, which we are currently using, We are proposing that we develop a task force here within Parkway to plan for potentially moving to DESE's response to intervention model for eligibility for specific learning disabilities, specifically in the areas of reading. We also are making sure that we ensure IEP expectations and compliance information is systematically shared with each school, and there's an opportunity provided to staff at the start of the school year to update them about best practices for IEP participation. To support the improvement of systematic progress monitoring, intervention, and database decision-making within Parkway, we recommend an increased sharing of disability-related data with building administrators on a quarterly basis. Since almost all district programs, initiatives, and departments impact students with disabilities, we recommend representation from our Special Services Department and the Special School District to be embedded within other district committees and action teams moving forward. Since the overall attendance rate of students with disabilities is lower than students without disabilities, we are recommending the creation of a chronic absenteeism task force that will seek input from building administrators to identify areas for improvement in all 3 tiers of intervention related to student attendance. To further improve communication of information to parents and guardians, we recommend our department collaborate with the communications department to determine ways to increase access to disability-related information. And finally, to meet the increased mental health needs of students, we recommended improving clarity regarding access to psychiatric consultations for students in need. So, you made it to the end. We would like to thank all of you for this opportunity to present all of the work that we have done on behalf of our students with some very unique needs. We're eager to continue this work and look forward to sharing the results of any of the work that we use moving forward. Oh, any questions for us?
Well, first, I'll just say thank you on behalf of the board for such an in-depth and thoughtful presentation. A lot of really good data, and we know that you both and you probably have a lot of people that assisted with this, but we recognize how much was put into this, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Can I just go back, and maybe you shared this, I just missed it, on all the information, but the 504 incidence rate for us was 930 students, something like that. How's that compare statewide or nationally?
That data is not really collected. It's the MoDESE is not responsible, so it is federal data, and I can look into that and talk with Dr. Tyson about what numbers we can pull from that federal data. It's possible we might be able to find Missouri as a whole. I know in speaking with my colleagues throughout the St. Louis region that we are one of the leaders in terms of our process, our procedures, and making sure that we are adequately identifying and serving students with Section 504, while we are still struggling to really to evaluate all students who may qualify. But I'll pull those numbers, we'll find that information to see how we compare to Missouri and maybe other states.
I know board members and administrators are gonna laugh when I say this, but the state I came from, many years ago really did an assessment, and we found out that we really weren't, to your point, we weren't identifying, we were under-identifying 504. Still pretty new, but that we were, we were kind of pushing students maybe into an IEP when really a 504 might have better served them, I think is what I'm trying to say here. So I just wonder if there's, if there's more data out there than was 12 years ago or 14, 15 years ago.
Yeah, I'll look into that and see what we can find.
I think, but it's also part of your recommendation, which I think is really good to assess our work in that.
I'll chime in on a couple of things. Well, first of all, I too want to thank you. This was extraordinarily comprehensive, and to provide the history and to give some educational information to all of us to get educated on 504 versus IEP, et cetera, is just very, very appreciative. And you took this very seriously, and it shows. And looking forward to seeing some of the recommendations that you're setting out. One of the other things I saw in your report that you didn't directly present here tonight was doing an audit of all the facilities to see where we might be needing to become more in ADA compliance. compliance so that our students can get to their home schools rather than being a special assigned to another school. So I think that would be a phenomenal thing to be able to work toward within our district. That'll be a big thing to be able to accomplish. I know it's late, and I'm not going to belabor a lot of questions, so I've really tried to hone this down on what I want to ask. Two big things. Going to the CEIS information. I noted a couple of things with that. First of all, are you able to tell, is it working? Because there is some concern within the parental area that is this just delaying testing to identify learning disabilities that may then allow a child to become qualified for an IEP? And so so the bottom line is it working? And I also noticed that math and reading are not part of that CEIS intervention. It talks about a lot of the mental health types of things and speech pathology, but it didn't specify math and reading, and so I was curious about that.
Sure. So to answer your first part about is it working, the reason that Parkway is considered a disproportionate district is because of the identification of African American students who are receiving lengthy suspensions. And so that we, in prior years, from my understanding, because again, I'm 2 years back into the district, in prior years we had been identified for over-identifying students. Our current designation under being a disproportionate district has to do with the length of those long-term suspensions. And so one of the pieces that we are now trying to do is collect some different data because our data points have now changed with what we are actually looking at. We have recently actually just updated our goals to make them more measurable so that we'll be able to track, are our interventions working? Is where we are putting our money for CEIS, is that gaining that benefit? Or do we need to look at other interventions? So we will have more information in the coming years because the target has moved now that our designation for why we are a disproportionate district has changed. As far as what we are using those CEIS employees for and some of the funding for different interventions, we've grouped it under academic and social emotional. So the math and literacy do fall under that academic intervention, and that is what some of the impact is. We've partnered up with the TLA department to make sure that we are aligning with what they are recommending as far as academic supports, and we're looking at what's going on in those classrooms with students that maybe students are struggling. We're looking at potentially a referral. Most times we tend to notice the behaviors, and maybe it actually is an academic deficit. So some of our CEIS staff members are focused on that social emotional piece to work through those behaviors to deter those long-term suspensions so we can get to the heart of what's going on. And so one of the things that we have, communicated to our administrative team and to our CEIS staff is that this is not to delay a referral. If we see those needs, we're still putting forward for that referral. We're trying to tease out, are we making referrals because we see the behavior, but really that behavior is masking an academic piece that we need to address. And so we are looking at, that's why we no longer are considered over-referring African American students, but now our African American students that have qualified, they're getting lengthy suspensions, if that helps kind of differentiate what's going on at this point.
I'll let that process. My other question had to do with external testing, and the statement was that you're finding that external testing, students are not becoming eligible, they're not qualifying for an IEP because of the rigid Missouri DESE standards. So first of all, I want to make sure I understand what you're meaning by external testing.
Sure.
Are you meaning by a private outside of Parkway?
So we can be looking at private outside Parkway. We can also look at when students don't potentially receive an educational diagnosis with us, there may be other interventions that are going on where they get that label of a student who has what is considered learning disordered, not learning disabled, and they're receiving that label and sharing that paperwork with us and sharing those evaluations, and yet they don't meet because we are currently using that discrepancy model instead of the response to intervention. they're not meeting the model that we are currently using. That's why we're looking at creating a task force to look at what would it mean for Parkway to move to using the RTI model through DESE, which is approved, as versus the discrepancy model. There are other districts in the neighborhood area, Valley Park is one of them, that has moved for the reading area exclusively to look at the RTI model, and they're using that. If Parkway does move to the response to intervention model through DESE, which we can do if we commit to that and meet that criteria, we don't have to go for all areas. We can still use the discrepancy model for others. But as we know, we are hearing a lot of our families that are bringing us reports showing that their student is dyslexic, and they're not meeting our criteria when we use that discrepancy model. So what we want to investigate as a district is, if we put the work in to do the RTI model, will that help us with identifying some students that are showing that they have some needs, but they're not meeting that current model that we're using?
And I will say, just from personal experience also, I was informed that we had to make sure that if we did do external testing, because we still had their concern, and other families have the same experience in Parkway, where the family feels that there are certain things that are a problem and they want the testing, but the Parkway or SSD model here, personnel will say, well, we're not seeing it, therefore we're not going to do the testing. And that's the reason why parents then choose to go external, because they want to show that their child does have something that needs to be addressed and that they need help. So with that then, you have to know, and I guess I question, if parents are being told that, first of all, you have to make sure that you get information from the school that they will accept the external testing, and that if they do, that there are certain elements of that external testing that must be in that external testing in order for it to be accepted by the district. And I don't know how, and that just was a conversation with a psychologist here that told me, be sure you do that, because if you don't, you will have spent the money and the time, and the district will not accept it. So I'm hoping that other parents who are going through these external testings are getting that information so that they know when they request their testing that it will be accepted by the district, that it meets all of those, whatever those criteria are. And I forget, I think it was the educational versus the medical types of things. So we had to make sure, and there's a lot of research and time that goes into all of that on a parent side who is unknowledgeable about the whole learning disabilities, special education laws and everything, to try to make sure that they're doing the right thing for their child and making sure that the district will accept it. So does that take place with parents? Are they told that, or do we not tell them and then they go and get it and then it won't be accepted and therefore their child's not going to qualify because the test isn't going to qualify them?
Sure. So many times we get a testing report back from families, and we weren't aware that they were even going for testing. And so that opportunity to have that honest conversation about, this is what a comprehensive evaluation would look like. We need to make sure that they do this particular subtest. Most meetings that I've sat in where that has been the issue, where it has not been a comprehensive evaluation, the diagnostician might even say, well, I didn't do this subtest because for my purposes, I don't require that to give this diagnosis of learning disordered. And then our school psychologist will have to explain, these are the pieces that we have to meet in order to meet state eligibility and the criteria. So provided the opportunity to have that conversation with families, we absolutely explain, here's what our process is, these are the types of tests we are looking at, these are the subtests that are required in order to be able to show that discrepancy with our current model. Unfortunately, many times, and no fault of anyone, parents do seek out resources for their students, which we completely understand. We just find out after the fact. And then many times parents will go back and get another subtest, or we will agree as a team that we are seeing some impact, so maybe we do certain testing that then is a comprehensive evaluation. We call it a multidisciplinary evaluation. And we provide some testing from the school side, which then demonstrates either, yes, a learning disability, or no, they did not meet the criteria under our current model.
Okay. well, it'll be interesting to see what happens under the new RTI model, so hopefully that will be helpful. My one last thing is that I'm really pleased to hear about the planning and collaboration more between general ed and SSD staff. I guess where my concern comes in is getting that professional development for our general education teachers, because if SSD is not available to teach our students with dyslexia, but they qualify for that under a 504, then it's up to the general ed teachers, right, to teach to a dyslexic child. And many have never done that. And I had that same experience with my child when he was later diagnosed with dyslexia in 9th grade because it hadn't been picked up on the other testing. So in 9th grade, we're dealing with dyslexia, and we learned about it. And then in 10th grade, the ELA teacher was the one that had to have me explain, how are you going to teach my child? And I didn't feel like there was connection between SSD caseworkers and the general ed teacher to come up with a plan together. It was more, and so I'm hoping that some of what you're finding in your studies here with your comprehensive, that will change, that there will be more communication, so that our general ed teachers aren't felt that they're on their own to try to figure out, how am I going to help this child too? And it's not just ELA, you know, it falls into other social studies, science,
Yep.
whatever. And so they need to understand too how to help them, I would think.
Yep, so one of the things that we have done to try to assist with this is Amy Gerken-Coates has begun coming to some of our special education region meetings where we talk about some of what we call SSD hot topics or special education hot topics. What do we need to collaborate on? Where are there some of those, like we talked about the gap analysis, where are those holes that we need to provide some supports? And so we've already planned out some professional development moving forward. We actually have a meeting on the books with Dr. Holman-Bess on June 8th so that we can talk about even extending to administrators where are some of those holes that we need to fill in. So Amy will be coming to a region meeting in the winter and in the spring to help us continue that planning. We've already worked towards that new educator component to make sure that those trainings are for special education and general education teachers so that we start training up as staff members come in, and then look at what about our veteran staff? How do we provide the needed trainings that they should get? So we're pairing up as much as we can all throughout the district. We're working with Dr. Schulte to help with counselors as well, because there are some components that they need to be well versed in with the counseling staff throughout Parkway that supports all of our students with and without special needs. So a lot of increased collaboration to make sure that we have our needs met.
Well, and I noticed too, I was very encouraged to see that special ed staff is going to be included in revising curriculum as well now. And I was a little surprised to read in your report that some of the special ed classes were some of the alternate math and reading was not in compliance with the Parkway curriculum. But now you're going to be changing that, and you're going to be looking at trying to bring that into compliance with Parkway curriculum.
Yep, we are working closely with all of the facilitators and coaches at all the levels.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That'll be wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's
You mentioned a new staff member. How is that person's time going to be allocated?
So what we have done is we actually took a look at the minutes and services and the number of students for each one of our social workers that they currently have, and broke that down, and then we did form some new partnerships. We did have to move around some of our social workers to balance it out, because one of the things that SSD refers to as windshield time, and some of our social workers were in the car a lot, making it between buildings. So we have reallocated buildings so that it used to be that our highest minute social worker was 1,000 minutes above our social worker that had the fewest minutes, but they had the most windshield time because they were driving to every single quadrant. We have reconfigured those partnerships, and now social workers who had 7 schools may have 3 schools. So we're looking at getting staff members into the buildings to build partnerships, provide those wraparound supports, help with community resources for families, spend more time in schools because we also want to put some of that emphasis on our younger students to make sure that we catch some of those mental health illness, warning signs earlier on, provide those resources to then move up into the secondary settings.
Thank you both very, very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Should we applaud now for Melissa? Yeah. We're not finished. Now we have a work session. So Patty, welcome to the stage here. Welcome to the show.
Good evening once again. President Todd, Vice President Hopper, members of the Board of Education, Dr. Marty, and Mrs. Stover. I was joking with Dr. Matheson and said, you've had the slide deck since Friday. Do you have any questions? But I thought perhaps I really should go through it because it is the budget. So this is my first time to do this all solo by myself without Brian Whittle. So he is enjoying his evening watching some TV. So I gave him the night off. One of the few extra bonus nights off I could give him before he leaves on Friday. So we started our work, as we start all of our work, with our mission. And of course, most of our goal with the Finance and Operations Department is with Goal 3, but specifically centered with the budget application, of course, is focused on 3, the use of resources, whether that is placing our humans and having the correct FTEs, but also our financial resources and our facilities as well. So, as you know, our timeline, we started with a presentation as our budget assumptions were developed in December. We have been working with our administrators. We've been building their program budgets. We've been working with human resources to get all of our FTE and our enrollment projections together. And here we are in May to present to you our estimated budget. And then this next month, we're going to be compiling all these reports and bringing forward that 100-plus page report for you. So our fund balance graph, this tells a detailed history, of course, of our fund balance, where we've been, and then where we're going to. We know we want to pay special attention, of course, to like 2010 through 2012, when our fund balance dipped. In those timeframes, you can clearly see that our expenditures exceeded our revenues, so we don't want to repeat history. Since then, we've been building our fund balance, and this is our second year, this current year is our second year that we have actually had year-round cash. So we have not had to borrow, and we do not expect to do that in the upcoming years, which is wonderful. So as you know, we are very, very heavily funded locally. So our local category makes up 88.53% of our total. This year, we still have federal resources at 4.08%. So notably in there still includes some ESSER funds for this upcoming year, but by the end of 2024 fiscal year, we're projecting that we will have the ESSER funds substantially spent. The other item of note is our state percent is up a bit at 5.16%. So we include a second year of fully funding transportation. And as we know, prior to that, for almost 2 decades, we received very little funds from transportation. Just to give that breakout of what's included in that local category, included in their property taxes over 81%, but also of note is Prop C taxes making up the 8%, and then smaller items such as the financial institution tax, our VST revenues, student activities, and of course our food service revenues. So we spend a lot of time talking about the components of our property taxes because that is our largest source of revenue. And so any variance in these components, of course, can make a larger impact in our revenue. So our 5 major categories are our assessed valuation, our new construction, our collection rate, recoupment, and CPI. So CPI is Consumer Price Index. So this upcoming year is a reassessment year. With that, we also have a CPI of a 7%. Now, that does not mean that we will get a 7% increase in our property taxes because we have the Hancock Amendment that actually has a maximum of 5% growth. To further complicate that, we also know that we're still kind of coming out of COVID with office space, retail space. If you drive around the district, you see a lot of vacancy signs and such. So we've taken a conservative approach to our commercial property and our increases. We know our residential property, the market is still strong, so we will most likely get that 5% increase in our residential property. And then, of course, personal property, which the legislature had a lot to say about personal property, but in the end, as Dr. Marty mentioned, no major changes to personal property provisions came through and approved from our legislature. But we also know the last few years, our personal property values were escalated because of the high cost of used cars. Some of that has started to drop in the market. So we also are not expecting a large gain in our personal property for this upcoming year. So looking at all those components together, one most remarkably would be the new construction. You can see in that green bar, the green part of there, that was our increase in personal property. So certainly we had a large increase last year from that. This upcoming years and the future years, we're predicting a more steady or stable increase in our new construction. We know that we do have the Chesterfield Mall area that will be a very large development. However, we will not receive those new revenues until 23 years out. So even though, as the mayor says, it is not fully abated, however, the property taxes do not come to the Parkway School District until 23 years. So here is our breakdown then, looking at all of our revenue sources, not only in this upcoming year, but looking at some of our future forecasts as well. So you will see our steady growth in our property tax that is in there. So this year, this upcoming year, we're using that 5% as our CPI because that's the maximum. In our future years, non-reassessment years, we're using a 0.5% growth, and in reassessment years, a 2.5% growth. As we know, the feds have been really playing with interest rates to bring down the consumer price index, and word on the street the other day was they may even be lowering the interest rate. So we have conservatively looked at our interest on investments. We do not have large increases in that budgeted, just simply not knowing the long-term, really the long-term plan of how high these interest rates will be. Currently, we're making just over 5% on our daily deposits, so that is a really good thing. You'll see our VST revenue, so our revenue from our voluntary transfer students is gradually dropping through the year. So our largest class sizes are graduating and our incoming students are lower. This next year is our final year of new students under the program. So in those future years, you do see those declines. We have rather flat county revenues projected, so major sources there is our county stock tax and then our assessed railroad and utility taxes. In state, you see rather flat with this year for next year, but in the future years, we do have a slight decline just predicted in the transportation because we're not sure how long they're able to fund that at the full amount. Our federal revenues, as I've explained, this is our last year for ESSER funds for FY 2024, so we will have that drop off in FY 25 and in the future years. So, once again, just a reminder that the federal, this is our final year with the ESSER and the ARP funds. So once we have the revenues, we start putting together all of the expenditures, and it truly is like putting a puzzle together. So not only working with Dr. Bogus and Dr. Cohen, so making sure that we have, our FTEs in order, our salary increases. We're working with our unions to do union negotiations. We're looking at our benefit programs. What are we changing? And then, of course, our administrators are working on their program budgets and their building budgets as well. This year, when we compiled all of our operating expenses, we have 62.02% coming from salaries, 23.34, or 21.34 coming from benefits. That's down slightly. That total is down slightly from prior years. We have a gradual move of our food service employees are moving to purchase services, because essentially as they're either leaving and being replaced or being promoted, they're becoming Chartwell's employees. So now we have all of our warehouse staff, with the exception of one, that are in the food service delivery portion of the house, if you will. They are all Chartwell's employees. And then, of course, we have our supplies, which included in supplies is also our energy services, our technology supplies, et cetera. And purchase services, the other large item that is included there is Kelly Subs. Looking at our enrollment trends, so this is from Dr. Tyson's 5-year enrollment outlook that he provided in December. We are projected to have a decrease in enrollment for the next few years. Part of this is due to our VST students. Enrollment is decreasing, and slightly down in our resident as well. If we look at it at grade level, the orange color here is for this next year, so fall of 2023, and the blue bar is for our student population this year. So if we look at our kindergarten class, we are estimating that we will have more kindergartners this upcoming year than we do this year. However, that class size is still remarkably lower than what our senior level is. So we have less and less in our lower grades than we have in our secondary level, which then essentially is adding to our decrease in enrollment. So we have completed negotiations with our PNEA group. So overall, we negotiated 12.39% over the 3-year period. So this upcoming year, it will be a 4.87%. We have our final year, this upcoming year, with our nurse agreement, 2.25%. Our support staff, we were able to bring our pay bands up to a minimum of the $15 per hour and increase our other pay bands as well. And we have a total compensation increase of 8% there for the entire group, and then our administrators is a 5% increase. Benefits, we do have great news on our health plan. For this upcoming year, we are not recommending an increase. Our plan has been working very, very well. We had a 0% increase for 2023 as well. And essentially, it performs better than market. We just did a deep dive into our data with United Healthcare, and over a 5-year trend, we had less than a 3.5% growth in our medical costs. So medical alone, not pharmacy, but certainly that is much better than market trend. Part of our contributing factors on that is our Care ATC clinic. So that is provided to our employees at no cost, except for if they're on the HSA plan. And then, of course, we have CVS as our pharmacy benefit manager, and that has broken some of our increased trend that we were seeing under Express Scripts, so that trend for increase has leveled off. And of course, we have an award-winning wellness program. Wellness is one of our top spends under our United Healthcare plan as well, which is amazing, not only for an organization this big, but also knowing that a lot of our wellness and our wellness exams are actually covered under the clinic data too, which are never reported back to United Healthcare. So that's really, you know, it just shows that our employees are definitely engaged in their health. And we have a really good employee outreach and education program as well. So retirement, the retirement increase that you see on the statements will be based on the increase in salaries, so the retirement percentages have not increased. So putting that all together, we have our operating expense increases. So for next year, that will be just over a 2% increase overall in our operating expenditures. As you know, we have several positions that are currently open, custodial, maintenance, grounds positions. We're hoping with the new pay scale that we will be able to fill many of those positions. We still are in need of at least 3 diesel technicians for our transportation department. And of course, as Dr. Marty mentioned, Will is always looking for bus drivers. Our fuel pricing, you know, certainly we know that the cost of fuel at the pump has gone up, so our increase in fuel costs have been included in here, as well as some of our increase in outside services, such as to perform maintenance and such on our HVAC and our plumbing systems, and our grass cutting systems, our grass cutting based on our employees' openings. Putting this all together, of course, we love that this still means that our operating fund balances are increasing, projected to increase for this next year. So looks like hopefully we will end the year around 36% balances. Remember, we treated some of this as one-time money with the transportation funds, just simply when the legislature passed that last year. It was even passed as being a one-time increase. So we were all rather surprised when that was then brought forward for this next year as well. But we know statewide that was to help support the minimum salary that many of the school districts in the state of Missouri were not already offering. So this is just a small adjustment to the fund balance growth, but it really shows the growth in our fund balance from the time that we had the inception of the fund balance growth policy. So with that, you can see more of our hill that we have climbed instead of our ski slope that we slipped and fell in. And we know that in the future, it feels, you know, that we can be very confident that we will continue to have year-round cash and be in a good financial position. Our capital planning, of course, we are still completing our summer projects of last year. Last I heard, we are still waiting for equipment both at Green Trails and at West High to be installed. Well, actually to be delivered before it can be installed. And then we're also gearing up for some of our projects for 2022. So at tonight's meeting, thank you very much. You approved the GMP2 for the site improvements at Hannah Woods. Previously, you had approved the gym floors at South High and at West Middle. You have approved many of the network upgrades that Jason and his team have started, including our wireless infrastructure, our smart board replacement projects. They're beginning with site surveys for the fiber network redesign, and of course, working on the disaster recovery storage, backup and recovery, refresh equipment has already been installed. So next up, we will have River Bend and North High that will be under bid, the warehouse behind the operations building, and then of course, playgrounds will begin soon too. And our debt service, of course, with the assessed valuation growth, that does not have the same rollback features with the Hancock Amendment. So with the growth in our total assessed valuation, we've been able to grow that fund balance. And so one of the things you'll see this upcoming year with debt service is some larger payments that will be coming out of there with our new bond sale. Some of the payments were structured upfront instead of just balloon payments at the end of 2043. So we look forward to the continued growth there. And of course, we had the reapproval of our AAA bond rating. This ends up being our total recapitulation of all of our funds for next year. So as you can see, there will be a total decrease in funds of the $29,464,165. But those are only decreases in funds based on our spending of our 2018 bond funds and our projected spending of our 2022 bond funds. The operating funds, debt service funds, and capital projects standalone would all be estimated to be surplus funds. So with that, do you have any questions?
Well, thank you very much for your thoughtful, in-depth as always, but simple to understand for those of us who aren't in your shoes. Presentation, and very good job doing it solo. I like to think that maybe Brian was just watching on YouTube, but
He might be.
I felt his presence.
But we are looking forward to getting to know Dawn and having her on the team. So that was great to hear have her introduced tonight. I had just a couple of quick questions. Two unrelated, but you had mentioned CARE ATC. Where are we in our relationship with them, and does the cost to participate with them increase every year? And how long are we locked in with them, and what's the future of that? And then also the bus fleet. We keep hearing a lot about electric buses. I know we've kind of considered it at some level. And the natural gas CNG buses, have they proven to be as cost effective as we thought they would be a few years ago?
Awesome. So I'll start with CARE ATC. I did spend part of my day working with CARE ATC. So we are in our final year of our original contract with CARE ATC. We essentially, with this contract, pay for a block of time with that. So it has produced a positive ROI. So our return on investment is greater than the cost that we pay for the program. We've been going through the process of an RFP process, not only with us, but then also the other two school districts that are part of that, so Pattonville and Francis Howell. And then this year, SSD has joined in on that as well. So we have selected through the RFP process that CARE ATC is the provider that we're moving forward with. We've been working on the contract, so hopefully we'll have that done for the June board meeting. It's going to be a little bit different payment mechanism than our current mechanism, and it's going to be per member per month instead of just a block of time. With that, they're going to add at least one more provider. They're thinking in the South County-ish area, so whether that's De Pere or perhaps Sunset Hills. They do know, SSD has employees throughout St. Louis County. There is room at the Pattonville location, they call that McKelvey Park, to add an additional provider. So they may end up expanding based on the participation and such. So right now we are very happy with them, and we hope to continue that relationship with them as well. And I will say, they're adding services with the new contract as well, including some mental health supports for our employees and members on the plan. as far as the CNG fleet, the electric buses, et cetera. So we did file for the electric bus grant that was offered through DESI, but unfortunately, we were not one of the winners of that. If we were to look at the purchase of a bus outright, it's almost 3 times the cost of a diesel bus, so it would be really difficult without grant support to have that positive ROI on that. But certainly that is one of the plans for the future that we do discuss is, eventually will we get electric buses? Our CNG buses, even with the increased cost of natural gas, it's still much cheaper to run those buses than it is the diesel buses. Just the diesel fuel is still, I think it's over $4 a gallon, and then the compressed natural gas equivalent is much lower than that. And remember, the first several purchases of the CNG buses, we did have grants that helped to supplement the cost. It was only that last, I will say, what was it, 12 of them that we bought without grant funds. So they certainly have withstood, and are reaching their lifespan. So we have finally paid off. The first group of those were all paid with a lease. So that lease is completely paid off, I believe, this year. So we don't have any lease payments that are projected to be in this upcoming year. So, anything else? All right.
Thank you very much.
And I just want to give compliments to Brian because he helped me with putting all of this together. So now I look forward to working with Dawn to do the same. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. I have nothing else on my agenda. So may I have a motion and a second to adjourn the regular meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you all for attending, and